Oh, so the Bane effect is only attack rolls, right? Oh wait, I actually put it on the token, didn't I? Yes, I did. Yes.
Now me.
Oh, sorry.
I think it's also a chance for their spell to just not work, right?
Yeah, I did this with that. Also,
Rip that
Smart.
20.
I just wasted 20.
I could have used that.
Yeah, true.
If only you rolled that last session.
Not me. Smart.
Yeah.
I can do the recap again.
Sure.
Basically, we continued fighting the spiders that we encountered, eventually finding the sort of brood mother of the spiders. We fought and killed it. Then we sort of took all the rest of the resources out of the cave, including the special ore. We found a caved-in area. We decided it'd be best to head back to the shrine to rest up. We rested up, talked a little bit to the old man at the shrine. Then we came back here, and Noko got cursed because they touched the fire thingy.
Yeah, I poked runes, and then they crawled onto my arm.
Worth.
Well, we'll see.
I don't think it was actually worth it in any way. Not immediately, at least.
Yeah, not immediately. Bane and spell failure.
Well, I suppose we should try to see if the old man at the shrine can be of any help for this. But if not, I suppose we must head on to well, the next place we could imagine him, which would probably be the next shrine on this map.
Man, Xanavar really didn't like that. He just left after you touched it.
Yeah, places to go, places to be.
He just vanished into thin
Yeah.
air.
You killed him. You killed
Oh.
him with your ignorance.
Kanako, when did you get here?
I'm always here.
Not for the spiders, you weren't.
Or was I?
They were a spider the entire time.
Oh yeah, I'm not
Yep.
asking. I'm not even gonna. Well, one way or another, I think we should head back.
Starts walking.
Or at least get out of the cave.
People leave.
Teleports to the entrance of the cave. Unless I'm stopped.
Wow.
I got here first. Ha ha.
What the heck?
I'm faster than you.
Suddenly, spiders.
Ugh.
These nerds phasing through walls and teleporting.
Guys, RP dragging their token.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. we did. We did the
entrance
same
bell.
thing.
You should have made this the canon entrance. We all gathered here.
No, it's on GC for tricking me into believing that was the entrance.
Well, this is the closest one to
Yeah,
the
but-
map border, so I'm like, oh, this is the entrance.
Funny because we did the same thing last time.
Oh.
Leaving.
Look.
Yeah.
I suppose so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are we just like telling the old man that we're gonna leave now, or do we have more business with him?
Well, there's always a chance he might be able to help with the curse, or point us into a direction of someone who might be able to.
Maybe.
He does govern the shrine, and he's probably
Yeah.
seen things like this before, or at least curses.
Wait, are we in character or out of character? I was asking out of character.
I'm just entering in character.
Oh. Wait. How can she hear me?
She has very good perception.
God.
Well, I mean, out of character, I know how I'm going to deal with getting rid of it. But like, it's not gonna be easy.
You better not be calling any dark powers, boy. We don't like 'em around these parts.
Well, it's funny. We already have part of what I need. It was very convenient to have the fire reagents.
No.
Not really. And yeah, she shows the very red runes all across her right arm. Or it was right. The what? It was the right arm, right? Yes. Yes, it was the right arm. Hold on. Oh.
Do you perhaps know someone who can remove this curse? Who might they be?
And where might we find them?
Mm. All roads lead to High Shade.
Dika nods, just turns back to Noko. Well, I suppose you know who to track down after we're done here, assuming you can afford it. How much do they
Right.
charge? What do you think they would charge?
A lot.
Well, yes, a lot, but how much is a lot?
A large amount.
More than one.
She
Yep.
looks exasperated at the priest, begging for an answer
A
before one of these
significant sum.
before one of these jokers pipes up again.
Probably less than 1,000,000.
Hyphen above, please, please just answer me. I suppose it is an option.
It sounded to me like you're still probably gonna have to track down diamonds somewhere.
That's going to be expensive. Hmm.
Well, perhaps there's another way to remove this curse.
Maybe.
Hopefully.
Yeah, if only it was avoidable.
Mm-hmm.
Ron is just like kind of staring.
Noko is silent at that.
What now?
Well, we should continue on our journey towards the next shrine.
What level is greater?
5th level.
Oh,
It might be more
damn.
realistic for you, assuming that you want to get rid of the curse. I don't know what you're cooking up, but maybe you could try remove curse instead.
Which remove curse? Third?
3rd level. And it doesn't require any kind of crazy components.
I haven't checked the Zurich page to see if it's changed. But...
Oh yeah, I haven't checked the Sewer page either. I don't know if they changed it, but base 5e, remove curse doesn't cost anything.
The
Yeah,
only thing is, as a oracle, it's not prepared spells like a cleric is.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm
Actually,
saying
it would cost all the downtime days to
I
change
don't
out
think,
of it.
I don't think remove curse has been changed.
I was
To be fair,
I was more saying to like track down. Surely there's a 5th level cleric at one of these temples that would remove your curse.
Well, we'll see.
Little do we know that we are the first adventurers in the world and the most powerful. No one's reached level 5 yet.
Only just those two random people he mentioned were level 5s.
Yeah, they're the first level 5s in the world.
Just as soon as people hit level 5, boom, they're gone. Nobody knows why.
The world scales with us.
Oh no.
Well, maybe we should keep going for now, since I don't think we can do anything about it at the moment.
Well, we definitely need to. We need to track down that man. He's probably been at the 3rd shrine by now.
Potentially. We should probably go while there's still daylight, though.
This is the 3rd shrine. You mean
The
the
4th
4th?
shrine, then, yes.
Yeah, we should head that way. For sure.
Is there anything else you need from us? Looking at John Priest. Did we ever get his name? Did we ever ask that? I forget.
I don't think so.
Oh gosh, it's Ladika will not ask him his name because it's really awkward now that they're leaving.
Oh, if we run into Anton and High Shade, or somehow find the other one, Luna, you said. Who should we say sent us?
Oh, right. I guess we never asked your name.
I could have sworn we did.
Also,
Sorry about that.
over the
Rana shrugs. She seems indifferent to this.
Also, over the course of my downtime expenditure, would I have, given the location, would I have heard that name mentioned? Alexander. Okay. What about Anton? Okay. Okay.
Well, regardless, we should probably head out before it comes nightfall.
Right.
Indeed.
Yep.
Uh, oh, right. All of that. Man, I don't even know how we're fucking taking all of that shit.
Hold on. Do we have 10 minutes?
Yeah, sure, 10 minutes we can spare.
Sure.
Ladika sits down and starts casting Tensor's floating disc.
Someone have like a
That's fucking
Like like a cloak or a blanket or something we can cover it with, so we don't so the bandits that we're maybe walking past don't see that we're carrying like 100 fucking pounds of gold.
It's
She's
going to be
exaggerating.
a bit awkward for our journey too. I'm gonna have to keep recasting this every hour.
Eh. We need a cot.
We do. We should have asked if that town had a spare cart. Oh, but then we don't have horses.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of pretty valuable. Not that we don't trust you, of course. That's not what I'm implying, but
Uh, how long would the trip be to our next shrine exactly? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because
Alright, yeah.
there's a town between them.
Oh.
maybe the town will have a cart and horses we can rent.
Is
Yeah.
there... And how long is it to the town? Okay. So a day's
So
travel with all that.
10 minutes per hour of me casting
Yeah, that sounds like
Tempest
it's gonna
Floating
fucking
Disc.
slow us down a lot.
There's gonna be at least one time where Ladika forgets to cast floating disc again, and the disc is gonna disappear, and all the gold and silver is gonna clatter to the
so it'll be
ground.
like 28 hours or
I mean, yeah, I guess altogether, if we can't find a horse and carriage in this town we're passing through.
You know, I think I'm underestimating the time it's gonna take us. I feel like we should just worry about this once we're done with our job.
Hmm.
That
That
works
might
for
be
me.
better.
Let's just hope we remember it's here.
I was thinking in my head, like, it's only a couple hours away from the town, but the more I think about it, it's probably closer to like a day. I don't know if this is really feasible.
Nah, probably not.
Catching up to that death elf is going to be much more important than some gold.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Can't be
Hey,
slowing ourselves down over something like this.
and I mean, if the Inquisition decides to check up on us and they don't happen to see the gold, then we don't have to tell them about it too.
We
Well,
might
I don't
want
think
to
this
bring the
time.
silver, though.
What for?
You remember the ring?
Well, this is raw silver.
And those rings were
Clueless.
and those rings were had a bit of magic to them. They weren't just pure silver.
Mm-hmm.
I would doubt very much that this silver in its current form would offer any real protection.
Guys, what
Well,
rings are we
it
talking
might
about?
be useful.
The rings in the first session that I wasn't here for, but I remember that you used to protect yourself against the blight.
Oh my god, I forgot about that. Yes, you're right. I don't know
Wow.
if I don't know if we're gonna need 18 pounds of silver, but maybe we can carry some of it with us.
We can just keep it here. Just keep it all here. We're not going to be able to fucking make rings of silver out of this 18 pounds in the time that we have.
And it's not going to have the same enchantment properties because those rings weren't just pure silver, they were slightly magical. Or
Yeah.
weren't they actually magical rings, not just
They,
silver?
yeah, they were.
So we're not going to be able to just magically enchant them too on top of it.
Not in
Let's
some rinky-dink village.
Let's just leave it here. We'll come back for it later. It's
Mhm.
simple as that.
Right.
We're also running low on time. We should.
Yeah, we need to go now. Alright, thank you, Mr. Alexander. She like quickly
Right.
bows and shuffles out the door. The our loot!
Run up,
No!
We could literally
See
just
you,
pick it up
man.
later.
My money! Throws a tantrum. It's really embarrassing.
Fucking records it and posts it online.
Dude!
Bonk.
Dude! Wait,
What a
what happens in the
freak
what
out.
happens in the video? Why is there a live leak logo? Scoop pulls out a
Also,
gun and shoots me.
once we're far enough away from the shrine that it's like reasonable that he wouldn't overhear. Noko's just like, I'm not sure about that, man. I I don't know if I think he knows a lot more about this than he's letting on.
I
Es-
had my oh,
Especially
go on.
with this. And she motions to the runes on her arm.
I had my suspicions too, along with Xanavar, but after grilling him a little bit further, he was infected with the blight, but it seems that he's cured himself. As for the rune stone, I'm not sure. But I don't believe he's an agent of this elf that we're tracking down. I think.
I don't know. But
It is kind of suspicious that this shrine wasn't hurt or damaged in any single way. But then
Mhm.
again, maybe he just didn't.
Well, we found the arrow in there, right? The arrow with the blight stuff on it. For all we know, that could have been, in waiting.
There's also the fact that we found blight in that village, so perhaps what's his name? Lucius? Perhaps he doesn't reveal himself to every town or shrine that he attacks. It
Yeah.
seems that he lets the blight do most of the work for him.
He did anticipate us, finding the curse, though. The curse itself. What was it he wrote in the fucking journal thing? I don't even remember. I just remember him being smug, that's all.
Very, very smug.
I don't think he expected
Smuggiest.
us to find it. But
Expected
just
someone,
Benny.
nonetheless.
He figured that some people would come after him.
Rana shrugs. I don't think there's much we can do about it. At least not standing here.
If we know that, or if we come back and we see that the priest has turned into a horrid blight monster, well, we know what our mistake was.
Yeah, leaving our money with him.
Uh, well, partly, yes.
I'll never trust an elf again. She
Wait.
jokingly fucking balls her fist up to the sky.
Ladika doesn't know that. I don't know if that's the lesson that we should have learned from that.
Sounds reasonable to me.
Huh?
Sun's also joking. Sun's also joking.
Are they actually racist?
Anyway,
But he's not a vampire. Why do they hate him?
He was a vampire the whole time.
Oh, then Ladika would come around to it. Hell no.
no.
Uh,
No?
I got a
Let me
cloak.
see.
I didn't
I
know we were gonna be
have-
going into the mountains.
Tribal clothes.
I didn't
I
see
have-
that. I didn't see a map on when I joined this mission.
I have a traveler's outfit and tribal clothes. Actually, you know
I have a
what?
cloak.
I mean, I have the power of fire, though.
Note to
I could
self:
always
buy a
transform
coat.
into something that's cold. It likes the cold.
Just constantly conjuring a bonfire in front of us. Or next to us, because, you know, not exactly a good idea to walk into fire. Uh, 50 out of 60.
I'm
Fast
loaded.
enough. I'm
Ready
almost
for-
there.
Maybe.
It's not that bad. It's loading pretty fast.
Oh,
Not with me.
Oh wait, hold on.
oh,
Wait,
that spoiled it.
bang.
I mean,
I hate if there are harpies here.
Looks.
Oh boy.
Boy, I sure hope we don't run into something on this path.
Yeah, it's something weird with wings on it.
Oh,
Dude, we're in like Skyrim right now.
Never should have
Or-
come here.
Give me a horse so I can just climb the mountains.
can't wait to count out your coin.
It'll make a fine rug cat.
You'll be easier to rob when you're dead.
I like to imagine that Xanavar's with us. He's just like completely and utterly zoned out. We don't even know what's going up with him. He's just completely dissociated.
Mhm.
This map is chunky. I can feel it when I move my.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I'm like, holy.
It's like we're moving through snow.
It's crunchy. I hate it. Grrr.
Yeah.
Atika's like kind of shivering, trying to keep herself warm. Why did we buy coats when we were in town? I forgot we were going to a mountain.
Rana's got a nice toasty warm cloak on. Well, it's not really that toasty warm, but it's relatively.
Atika has nothing.
Kanekar looks unbothered.
Do I have something for this? Checks my bag. Oh, can I wrap a blanket around myself? Hold on. Better question. Is this cold, like, affect us mechanically at all?
Oh,
Air
boy.
cold.
Mhm.
Okay.
I see an opening up ahead.
Atika's got a blanket wrapped around her. I see prestidigitation can heat 1 cubic foot of non-living material for 1 hour. Could I presti, like, all of my clothes and just make them warm? Or is that a stretch?
Hmm.
I'm more curious if I could do it.
I've seen it used that way before.
You can
Ooh.
have up to 3 of its non-instantaneous effects active at a time. So
Boots.
3 feet worth of stuff, or
3
3
cubic
cubic
feet.
feet.
I guess it's up to you, John DM, if I can heat up my my clothes enough. Yippee!
Gotta get
Ladika's
the important ones. The feet.
Oh, my toes, you're right. Okay, I'm gonna heat up my boots and maybe the inside of my hat so that I'm nice and toasty where it matters the most.
Ah.
Still got the blanket on me though.
Sun is constantly checking the weather with her druid craft, making sure they're not about to get snowstormed. She's okay with cold. It's just, and she's
Oh.
We see that, right?
oh no, they're hurt.
Do they look dangerous at all?
Well,
Oh, but harpies
Uh,
are actually like regular people in this world, so
Hold on. This is like textbook ambush.
I think we should be careful.
Can I make a perception check for anything like around here?
I will also look around. Looks. Actually, I'm gonna help. Rana.
Don't do that.
Never mind. I'm gonna do my own.
You can help Sun.
I don't go wisdom, buddy.
Sun has wisdom.
Helps you epically.
Uh, there are more harpies around, but it's weird that they aren't helping this one. You would think that they'd help them if they were being normal.
I think they might have left this one out as bait.
Perhaps we should be on our guard. I would still like to see, or at least attempt to tend to it if it's not an ambush. But we should be very aware of the fact that this could be.
Ron is just
We should at least
taking
try
the
to help
dagger
her.
at this point.
Oh, them.
Ladika is just gonna start channeling her magic to just get herself ready in case they need to start fighting some harpies.
Hello? Are you okay? Sun will speak up towards the harpy.
You alright? What happened to you?
Should continue flying.
And what of your friends?
Sayings and
No!
No!
now I can be
Rip.
heard. Huzzah!
Huzzah!
Hey, caramba. Anyways, what was the last thing that was asked? I got distracted.
And what of your friends around here? Why have they not decided to help you yet?
Well, you must know, it's because we're a bit hungry. You all look like a nice little treat.
If we
Kanaka
help
looks at
you,
herself. And is like,
Alrana casts Firebolt. He just shoots him.
Alright, everybody
we
snap
oh!
the grid and...
All
Okay,
right.
uh,
Alright then.
That is fucking way too aggressive. No,
Yeah.
she's not having that.
yeah,
she
they'll
said,
hit.
she said, nope, die. Nah, that's valid. She's so real for
Damn.
that.
I was just gonna bluff and just be like, but what if we're on fire?
Ouch.
I was gonna say, if we heal you, will you not eat us? Which probably would not have worked.
That's what
Now that I
Sun
think
was going
about
to
it.
do.
There would have been.
She would
maybe
probably would have
some
been like,
nice.
thanks for the healing, idiot. Now we're gonna eat you, and then we would have fought anyway.
To select all
You'll make a fine rug, bird.
initiative.
Never should have come here.
Alright, roll for initiative.
Roll for initiative.
Never should have come here. Alright. Well, y'all. And then we sort.
And he said you're probably just going to have Xanavar here, but you control him.
Yes, that is true. Was given permission to have him controlled, so that's
I also should have him here, because well, he probably would have had his echo manifested, because he's a careful boy.
Yep.
Full players. Initiative. Normal. Did that. Hang on, I forgot to add them to the initiative first. Whoops. Let's see. It's initiative 15. There we go. Sort. Alright. With that. Top of the initiative is Injured Harpy, who will get up from how they were and begin to sing a bit of a song. I need wisdom saving throws from all of you.
Could it be charisma instead?
No.
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 I'm just gonna do it anyway. I don't know, man.
This
Just
is
roll
not
high.
illusion magic, is it?
Hey, this song's kind of fire.
Nope, it is. What would it classify as? Let's see.
Wait, wait.
It's a charm effect.
So like enchantment,
charm?
I guess.
Yeah, enchantment would be it. Let's see.
Oh, hey, we have an elf with us.
Saving
Yeah.
wisdom.
Doesn't have our. Let me open up his sheets. So that's actually
I don't actually know what race he is. I think he's an elf.
half
I
elf.
never check. Half elf. Okay.
Do half elves get resistance to being charmed?
It depends on what they picked, I think, because of how Cyric does half races.
Yeah, let me.
Races like that.
Yeah, I think so.
Pieces of the multiverse. Species of the multiverse is what it's half elf.
Chicken.
The ancestry. Looks like he does. Advantage. There's the saving throws, wisdom, advantage. Oh no.
Oh boy.
Well,
Oh no.
What's the DC on this?
the DC is not known, but that is below it. Ledecca, you pass.
Oh. That song wasn't fire.
Not quite fire.
Man, we ain't getting out of the hood with it.
So the one with advantage is the one who failed, and also the one that I'm controlling. So smile.
Oh no.
Right. So Zanvar is charmed, and then the harpy will sort of fly back 20 feet to here. Still just above the ground. Right. After that, we have. Oh. Noko.
Well, we can't see any other harpies yet, right?
We cannot.
Wait, I thought that Sun saw the harpies though. Well, I guess we know that they're there, but
Yeah,
we don't know
you-
their
you-
exact position.
Yeah,
Wait,
you
what
saw
is
the
range
movement.
on-
You don't
range
have.
on fire?
Yeah, fair enough.
All right, 60 feet. So I basically just need to move 2 steps forward.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I guess we're doing this, and then just fire
Great bonfire. Where are you creating the bonfire?
right
Directly
here.
underneath. All right.
Oh wait, that's a night. Yeah, you know what? I'm still doing it.
See how it
Doing it on the pool.
You
Is
create
that
the
frozen
bonfire.
over?
Indeed, it is.
It would.
Or at least it was. That area right there is now water. and no longer has ice covering it. And will be a deck save from the Harpy. Who will pass?
It is pretty sure it's yeah, it's save or suck. So
Yep, so we'll successfully save.
but the fire is there.
Mhm.
Where the fuck is concentration? There it is. We need to knowledge these. I'm gonna knowledge them.
Alright.
What do they do?
With a 14, they have the following abilities. They have Claw, Club, and Luring Song. They're
Okay,
fairly
that's
simple.
not bad.
I just realized I don't have a bow.
Do we get to identify one of those, right? Still?
Yeah.
Yep.
We can find out
Uh,
exactly how the charm works.
Yeah, sure. Luring song.
That's the only one that's really scary. The other two are just regular attacks,
Yeah.
I assume.
Luring
Oh my
Song
god.
sings a magical melody. Every humanoid within 300 feet of the Harpy can hear the song. Must make a Wisdom saving throw, DC 11, or be charmed until it ends. They must use their bonus action to maintain the song. And while you're charmed this way, you'll basically walk towards them, mostly ignoring.
Oh
the
dear.
creature.
It's going to. Sandovar's going to move directly towards it.
Yes.
He's
And
gonna
you
drop
just-
into the ice that you just, or the water you just made.
Oops.
Mhm.
That just happened. It's okay. She's
Yeah.
dead on like any one of our turns.
Yeah.
Oh,
But then the others.
Well, Sandovar, it
It's
Wait,
my
hold
turn.
on.
there's
Do they
only
have to
one.
use? Do they have to
one
use
turn.
all their movement?
Would fucking falling into a frozen lake count as damaging terrain?
It does give a specific description, such as lava or a pit, or whenever it takes damage from a source other than the Harpy, they repeat the saving throw. And they also repeat the saving throw at the end of its turns.
So, would you consider that a pet?
Wait a minute.
Ow.
Yes, this would provoke another save before falling into.
Okay. I don't know how much movement speed Xanavar has, so he might not even get there, even if he uses all of his movement.
Is it like he has to full action move towards it, or is he allowed other actions? And it's just his normal movement that goes
See.
towards it?
The target is incapacitated and moves towards the Harpy, so it would be a full action. Pretty much move, action, dash.
Oh boy.
I have a stupid idea. I
Okay.
don't know if it's gonna even work.
The last
But,
time you
like-
said that, you got runes on your arm.
Eh. But I'm just reminded of I was reminded of Attack of Opportunity with Warcaster. How we could technically heal friends that walk past us. And it's just like, wait. I could
do
technically
that.
just unarmed strike Son of Harm to wait to snap him out of it as a reaction.
If it comes down to it, if somehow he gets past all of us without him snapping out of it, I could just magic missile.
Mhm.
Send one bolt towards him.
Either way, the Harpy is very close to death, so it's probably not going to matter anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Just kill it.
Alright, anything else,
The
Noko?
ultimate
My turn.
mitigation.
Yeah, my turn's done.
Cool. Kaneko.
Yeah,
I'm regretting my bonfire.
can I look around to see the other harpies?
Yeah, make a perception check. Right. With that, you get the position of the two nearest harpies. There they are.
Oh boy.
Looking.
They're so close to the sorcerers.
Yes.
Can they be farther away from the sorcerers?
No.
No. You will cast shield.
How high are
Okay,
they?
honey.
I assume they're like flying up there.
Snap stun.
I will note that Xeniver on the next action will be all the way over there. Because he will action dash there.
Yeah.
It depends
I
on
can't.
whether or not the song is still ongoing before then, so...
It, it will be ongoing unless if we actually do kill the harpy.
Yes.
I can't kill a harpy. I don't have range.
Could you pick up a rock and like throw it?
I mean, I guess I could.
Rocks
How much
never
health
fail
does
me.
it have?
Like, nothing.
Actually, let me look.
Also, keep in mind that Xanavar has strength, and therefore it's not 30 feet of movement. It's more than that.
Oh, yeah.
Mm.
Well, he'll have to make the save anyway.
You will get there regardless, correct?
I forgot that strength characters can move more.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. What's the plan?
Slap.
Alright.
That's a. Playing palm to face.
Right.
To Xenophore.
I guess make an attack roll.
Is there a way to, like, lessen the damage?
Yeah, I would say you are able to pull your punches to a basic, like, just your strength modifier damage.
I don't think I have strength.
Yeah, it's 1 plus strength modifier, so if you don't have strength, it'll just be 1 damage.
Yeah, well, it'll be 1 damage.
Kablow. Yeah, temp HP. Technically, the way that stealth works is like you don't need to make a concentration check if it doesn't go through. You did 6 damage. He had 5 temp HP. I'm just going to have it go through his temp HP. So he takes 1 damage. Because the way it works is if you say are concentrating or you have like an effect that ends with damage, temp HP acts as a buffer, so it wouldn't have gone away. But you rolled 6 damage for that attack, so
What does he have temp HP from anyways?
it's from his aberrant dragon mark. I believe so, at least.
Well, either way, we do want at least 1 damage to his normal
Yeah.
health.
Yeah,
So
you
we're
guys are
fine.
able to successfully deal that damage.
Mm-hmm.
What's next?
So is he no longer charmed?
He is no longer charmed.
Okay.
Sun technically has a mass charm cleanse. It
How
hurts
high
though.
are these harpies up inside here?
These are about, let's see, probably about 20 feet upwards.
Already used my action. Just move here, and I'll oh, what are the tactics? Alright.
A 10 is insufficient.
head.
Anything else?
So it'll be my turn.
Gotcha. Okay. So Zanvar will move towards here and then pretty much. Does it cost a bonus action to? It does. Will manifest his echo up on the hill next to the harpy and make an attack through it.
Echo Knight moment.
Mm-hmm.
I have played an Echo Knight before, so I know how to do this a bit. Alright, that'll hit for 9 slashing damage. Let's see. Yeah, use Unleash to make another attack. Nice. Additional 6 damage. Now ends Zanvar's turn. Harpy number 3 will have its turn and will attack the echo next to it. With their claw attack. That's a natural 1. That will not hit. They'll use a club attack and will also miss. Well, Well, that's Harpy number 3's turn. Harpy number 4 will fly to here and will use its luring song.
Oh boy.
Each of these luring songs is unique to the harpy, so it is still safe for everyone. The good news is all of you guys are immune to Harpy 6's song.
Oh, so the immunity is per harpy.
It is per harpy, yes.
The
Damn.
agony.
Yes.
Hey, this
fail,
song is
pass.
fire, dog. Sheesh.
I forgot I gotta do
Damn.
Zanvar.
Agony, alright? Oh no.
Passes. Okay, that is a fail from Ladeka and Sun. You both are charmed by Harpy number 4.
Apparently Bane is taking into effect on the saving throws
Oh,
when it
is it?
shouldn't be. Yeah.
Yeah, the Bane effect is built into there.
Yeah, it's built
Yeah.
into the Bane macro, into that macro.
So
Yeah.
I'll just have to turn off Bane because I'll just worry about it whenever I cast the one attack spell I have.
Hmm. Right. It'll be Harpy 4's turn. Varana. You see that
Hey.
Sun and Ladeka have been charmed by Harpy number 4.
Sun doesn't mind being hit by a magic missile.
Man, it cannot sound that good.
Sounds kind of bad, actually.
Part of me wants to just fucking send that harpy into oblivion with a scorching ray, but
What if you just 1, 2, 3.
Magic missile, that would be a really good action economy.
man,
Man, you got quicken spell, goofy.
You could do that and then scorching ray that.
what do you
Could
think
both.
I'm made out of? Sorcery points? You think I
Yes.
should just
Yes.
burn on trees?
Do you also
I
have
can
that
do
spell?
quicken- No, that stone is empty.
Oh, true.
It's not got a spell slot in it.
This guy's saving his sorcery points for D&D 6.
No, I'm saving it for a potential fucking second encounter. Ugh. But fine, since you want to fucking railroad my turn, I'll do exactly that.
Yeah, I'm a backseat gamer.
I hope it rolls high on you specifically, DC.
What the heck? What the heck, man?
The 5-1 that goes on DC.
Fuck you.
Yeah.
So 1, 2, 3.
Yep.
Yeah.
Alright, so miss 1 deals 2 damage.
Like, just conk Ladika in the side of the head with a magic missile.
The Harpy seems to still be alive. Just barely.
Man,
Oh,
Where
thank you.
is my damage?
ugh, man.
You don't have
Still
to finish him
thinking
off this time.
Yeah. I don't even know when it goes in the turn order.
Yeah, I
Top
haven't
of
seen
initiative.
them unless.
Oh, okay.
They were the first to
Yeah.
go.
Alright. Yeah, then it's fine. I'll end my turn then.
Yep. Son, you are not charmed anymore.
Hmm. So does it? The incapacity means if I was concentrating on something, I would lose concentration on it, right?
That's correct.
What were you concentrating on?
Well, I was thinking about casting Bless.
Huh? I mean, that would be worth it, because there's one more harpy that could do a luring song, but you casting Bless, do like on yourself or something and some other people,
Yeah.
you'd have a better chance to pass it.
Probably do it on the people with on Sun and the people with Magic Missile, since we have the best um Sun cleanse or Charm cleanse.
Waste my turn on empowered spellcasting.
Again.
Uh,
Nah, not this time. Unless.
Who's the blessed on?
it's on herself, on Lorana, and on Ladika, since both of them have Magic Missile and are
Others.
very good at. If we were to all get charmed by the one, I'd want at least one of them to be able to Magic Missile us awake.
Hmm. Okay.
And I guess he'll try to see if he can find any others.
Okay.
As soon as I find, there you go.
As successful, you are able to find the next 3 nearest.
The next 3!
Oh boy.
They are to the north of you
no.
guys.
Uh-oh.
We're gonna need a lot of magic missiles. Wait, are these wait, do harpies count as people? Please say yes.
They were able to
Humanoids?
communicate to us.
Oh yeah. I'm just asking, because finally, my build will work!
Are you a humanoid? Anti-humanoider?
Yes.
They're monstrosities, unfortunately.
God damn it.
I feel your pain. I play with favored enemy humanoid, and they never are.
Okay.
You should just like go commit crimes in a town or something. I think that'll work.
I've
This-
I've thought about
At this
it.
point, I
It's a
might as well.
doppelganger. It's a monstrosity.
Anything else?
That's Sun's turn.
Ladeka.
I will resist the urge to actually do empowered spellcasting because there's a lot of
But
enemies
you know
here.
you want to.
I do really want to, but that's not the smart play. So instead, I'm going to magic missile.
It could be big numbers.
1, 2, 3.
Gotcha. First one kills the harpy number 6.
And they fall through fire, and then they fall into the water,
Mm-hmm.
and they're never seen again.
They get cooked a little bit before getting hit, and then next 2 harpies get hit as well.
All right.
What's next? Else.
You could do it again. Be funny.
I don't have quicken.
No.
I have
Cringe.
twinned because I was planning. I, I wanted to fight. I wanted to fight people, or I am built to fight people. I hold on. gonna dig through my backpack real quick because I'm gonna try to think of a way quickly to see if we can stop getting messed up by these harpies. I don't have anything that could work as earplugs, unfortunately. It's double checking, triple
Just
checking. Yeah,
don't
got
hear.
anything. True, actually,
Just
that's
pass
kind
your
of smart.
saves.
Can I just cover my ears?
Yes, you can.
All right, bang! I cover my ears. That's my turn.
Right. Time to deafen you in Discord.
True. I had
Weird
to. I had
looking
to.
Man, I was
I
so
did the
fucking
RP.
sad because I was thinking about what fucking second level spell to take, and I realized that you can't pick silence as a sorcerer.
Oh,
Spell
yeah.
skill that they get.
That sucks.
It does suck.
They get
Skill
darkness, though.
issue.
That's pretty nice.
Uh,
The warlock dip calls to you.
this harpy will fly. Oh, someone's in my reach.
Oh
Fly
no.
here. And make a claw attack against Noko.
Oh no.
There's an 11 hit.
Nope.
What about 17?
Yes.
Right, that's 4 bludgeoning damage as you dodge out of the way of the claw, but the club smacks you on the side.
Okay, I won't guardian that. That's only 4 damage and she's not likely to take more.
Technically, I gotta do this. Okay.
Roll, good roll. Alright. Next harpy will... Fly over to here. Positioning. Harpy 6 is dead. Number 2.
Uh-oh.
Will... see... dash and fly right here.
Uh-oh.
That'll be their turn. Noko.
What's the ruling for 2 spells at once? Like 2 leveled spells?
Sorcerers can, if not, only 1 leveled spell per turn.
Okay.
Yeah, sorcerers
You know
can
what?
with Quicken.
I'm gonna use something I got recently. And so yeah, Noko's going to see these 2. And just sort of make a throwing motion. And a little ball of fire appears here. Or, actually,
Flaming sphere.
before I do that, oh my god.
Close. Where are you placing the
Yeah.
spiritual weapon?
Here.
Gotcha.
And it's like it's a little ball of fire that just sort of lashes out with sort of flame tendrils for the attack.
Fire. I'm an artist.
I should have made a token for this because I'm pretty sure I have something that could work for it. But yeah. Oh, I make the attack. Oh. Well, I'm pretty sure 10 doesn't hit, so the Bane doesn't matter anyway.
Yeah, no, the attack did not hit.
How am I gonna do the repeated attack for that?
I have a macro for that, and after a session I can throw it to you.
Okay.
I just have a token for my spiritual weapons and I just drop it on screen and use them. It's how I normally do it.
We're good.
Oh, I can quickly make a token for it. Well, maybe.
I do have it.
Oh
but
look, we did
I'll do it.
we did
in my turn.
27 damage.
Damn.
God damn, I'm.
Whew, sheesh.
Yo,
Nice crit.
yo, if
That's
if the priest was here, he would be popping off right now.
Yeah. All right.
He isn't.
Oh my god. He's got
And
20 wisdom?
then as my
You got
other,
20 charisma.
that's a bonus action for
Well, I'm
spiritual
cooler
weapon.
than him, so it's just kind of surprising.
As an action. Or wait. First, I'm gonna step
Hmm?
here.
Gotcha.
And I move here normally.
Hmm?
And then I'm gonna use conjure bonfire on this one.
Gotcha.
Or create bonfire, whatever.
I'll succeed a dex
Damn.
save.
Okay. Then are there any others? I'm gonna peer around looking for others. Okay.
You do not spot any additional harpies.
Alright, well that's my turn.
Banco.
Pulls out greatsword and then smacks Harpy. Whatever that one was.
That'll hit.
Could almost press that again. Bonus action.
Hit as well. Anything else?
That'll be my turn.
Gotcha. Zamvar will have his turn. He will, with attacking through the echo, make an attack against Harpy number 3. That will miss. Let's see. He will move and position himself here. He'll protect the squishies. And that will be his turn. Be number 3. It's RP number 3. We'll try getting rid of the echo. And we'll succeed. By echo. And then we'll fly down over to here. Make a club attack against Sun.
That
Hey,
will
do
miss.
not bonk our healer over the head.
No. I'll end Harpy number 3's turn, and Harpy number 4 will receive initiative. And land here.
Hey, wait a minute.
And not bonk the healer, but rather bonk the Draconic Sorcerer.
I don't think
Which
you're allowed
one?
to
You
do
gotta
that.
pick.
Which one? Which Draconic Sorcerer?
Oh, I mean, that
I
one.
mean, I don't know, like, Rana, she looks pretty bonkable.
I mean, you also look very bonkable.
Man, I already softened Latimer.
Oh, that's a
up,
nat
so, I
one.
mean,
Hey! Who's starting on? Well, that doesn't hit. Well,
but
that
with a
hits even if I
club,
shield.
will bonk.
That doesn't fit. Ow! She actually bonked me over the head.
That's a big bonk.
That shit hurted.
They hit like a truck, but they don't.
Oh my-
They don't hit very often.
Oh my
That's
god.
half her health bar.
Yes! This is the first significant damage Latika's taken, like, this whole time.
Yeah,
So, like, grab her head, like, that shit hurts. She's reeling.
Lorana.
Oh god.
you'll be fine.
You help me.
Man, what's up with this whole fucking positioning thing? It's really mean and rude and not fair that you're here.
Out of character, I think I'll be fine. But yeah, Latika's not doing too hot.
Sun's about gonna use the bonus action to heal you. You'll be fine.
Yippee!
I mean, I fucking hate this shit. You just like forcing me to cast Magic Missile, don't you?
I like causing issues. It's fun.
I mean, Magic Missile on the one below me. And just all of them into them.
All of them got so 5, 6, 7, 11 damage. Kaplow.
Wicked. Yeah. She keeps her dagger out. But yeah. That's about it.
Alright. Next initiative, we have Sun.
This would be such a juicy pedal dance if all of y'all were enemies. Because that would be that would be 10d6 damage. That Sun could do total.
Oh god.
Because it's 10-foot range 2d6.
Mhm.
See, well, action dodge and bonus action on Ladika.
Did that actually load?
Yep, I see the
Okay.
weapon.
Yeah, I see it.
So that's
Oh,
21 healing.
21.
Damn.
God, I love having a healer.
Did that overheal you too?
You definitely did.
You have 1 temp HP as well.
Sheesh. The raging headache that Ladika just got is completely gone. Huh.
Just gonna continue looking for more.
Alright, make a perception check. Successfully spot the final harpy. Located to the south.
There's one more to our south. I don't see any more though. I'm quite confident in that.
Gods, I hope not.
That'll be Sun's turn.
Okie dokie. Ladeka.
Alright. Well, that hurt.
Hey, you just got bonked and then healed back to full.
Yeah.
The pendulum.
Okay. I do have bless. No, I will not gamble. We do need to kill these things. Okay, so I think... Yeah, Ladika is going to fire, she'll fire a second level magic missile at the harpy
daring
right in
today.
front of her. I know.
Yeah.
Sorcerers for the first 5 levels.
And then it just becomes fucking casting Fireball.
Yup.
Nothing
Right.
changes. It's just the name
No,
of the spell.
normally it's Trice, but if you didn't pick Quicken, so
Yeah. It's okay, I can get Quicken at level 6. So in 4 years, anyway. Does that amount of damage, which
I
is...
should really... Yeah, I should edit my Magic
12.
Missile to format like that so it's readable.
Yeah. 12?
And that is all on Harpy for.
Yep, right. Blasting it right in her forehead.
Cool, cool. All it?
This guy's got a lot of health. I've got the
Yeah.
spell slots for this. Can I squeeze past the harpy this way, or are we like right next to the...
You're right next to a cliff. You
cliff
cannot
face?
squeeze past there.
Oh wait, I can move through allies. I'm gonna
Yeah,
just
you
like
can move through me.
shove
But
through.
you would take an A off.
Beep, 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 beep.
Oh right. Okay. If I move here and then I step. Actually no. So I move here on top of Noko and then I step from here. I don't take an A up from either of them. Yeah.
Let's see. So you went here, here, and then took a step?
Yeah. Yeah, I went right here. So I was on top of Noko, and then I'm gonna step away from both of them.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, my movement is halved. So that was
You
10 feet.
Yeah, I was double
I have 10
checking to
feet
make sure.
left. Yeah. I'm gonna move freaking
You do not have 10 feet left. You have, I believe that should be all of your movement.
Huh?
Or you have 30 feet of movement, correct?
Yeah, 30 feet. So I moved 10 feet.
Yeah.
I used steps, so I have half of my.
You have 5 feet of
Remaining
movement left because you used the 10 at the start. And after you take a step, it halves your movement, so you only had a total of 15 this turn. Doesn't half your remaining it. Oh wait, your movement
Yeah,
for
it
the
does.
remainder of the round. Okay,
Yeah.
never mind. I'm bad at reading. Okay, so you would have.
Yeah,
10,
about 10
yeah.
feet. Because I had 10 left. I had 20 left over. Ooh, that. I'm not. I think I'm gonna hide behind Xanavar actually. Yes, I'm gonna stick close to Xanavar because I feel like if I move any further, that harpy is just gonna single me out again, which is probably gonna do anyway. That is. Oh, I'm gonna cover my ears again, and then
Gotcha.
that's my turn.
Gotcha. Harpy number 5. It's harpy number 5. Harpy number 5 is here. Oh. Harpy number 5 is gonna do a little silly and do a little song and dance.
Oh.
Oh!
So, for all of you not covering your ears, good save. Hi,
do it.
rolls.
I barely made it.
I failed on Xanavar again.
Oh, Lizzie's making it.
Yo,
look at Lizzie's
Lizzie
first
popped off.
Oh my gosh.
Lizzie and I have the same roll. So 12. Like, we have the same wisdom.
That's funny. Yeah, good job, good job.
Can't believe you wasted a nat 20 of Lizzie.
Yeah, like...
Technically, it's not a
this-
waste.
This
'cause it's
doesn't
Lizzie.
actually have a lizard stat block on there, it's just a completely blank token. But still.
So that is a pass from everyone except Xanavar. Xanavar is
The
charmed
only one
by
with
Harpy 5.
advantage.
Yep.
How's this happening?
I don't know.
DM dies.
You did this to him!
I don't want to roll badly.
Shakes my fist.
Right, that's Harpy 5. Harpy number 1 will... Let's see. I can attack. I could go here or here and like attack. Could actually move here and like try like in that like some nice flanking. Could be fun. Yeah, that actually does sound
You
like
could
fun.
not.
Yeah, I'm gonna go here and go for a flank on Kanko. Claw attack still does not hit because my dice roll are awful. And we'll make an attack with its club as well. I believe that will hit unless.
Yep. It hits.
Alright. That'll be 7 damage. It's the end of that Harpy's turn. Harpy number 1 will receive initiative. And let's see. Has not used its song yet. So we'll go to here and use its song.
Wait, what happens if Xanavar fails this?
Xanavar is immune to it. While charmed by a harpy, the target ignores the song of other harpies.
Oh, okay.
Pain.
It's a failing Kanko.
Why do I... Oh, that's bless.
Plus,
I was staring at that like, huh?
The way the macro handles having bless is kind of weird.
Yeah. If it was me, I would have put it in like a separate thing. Easy how it is. All right. So that's a pass on everyone except for Kaneko.
Wait, what about? Oh, right. That he
Yeah.
was covering.
Yeah, I'm covering my
Yeah.
ears.
Yeah.
Smart ear cover.
It
I
would be
should
amazing.
probably tell you guys to also do that.
Yeah, it's significantly easier for you because you're a caster. If say you're holding a great sword.
Oh yeah,
Or
some
a
of you guys
claymore.
can't hold your ears.
So that'll be Harpy 1. Harpy 6 is still dead. Harpy number 2. Bill? Where's Harpy number 2? Oh, it's the one in the middle of everyone.
Yep.
They have lots of
Take your
choices.
Poison.
Yeah, lots of choices. Probably want to tag Zanvar because he's charmed. Kanko is also charmed.
Uh-oh.
Oh. That leaves one person left. I mean,
Clueless.
technically it leaves two, but I do have flanking on you, and it'd be a shame not to use it.
Do it.
Alright,
Yeah.
They did it.
that brings your AC up to 21. How much does flanking add? Is it +2?
I think it's
Uh,
+2.
Yeah.
Oh, is
That
it
sounds
Pathfinder flanking rules?
I'm double
Mhm.
checking. Sure, because a creature flanking an enemy gains a +2 bonus to attack rolls against that enemy.
Zam.
I'm
That
casting
means-
it regardless.
Yeah, that means that they'll hit still. And they will use a club strike as well, which will miss. Right. Noko.
Oh boy. Well, let's get the spiritual weapon out of the way on Harpy 2. See if
Mhm.
this actually works.
Good. I'll hit for 8 force damage onto Harpy number 2.
Okay.
I typed 2 because I was saying 2. There we go.
Does the spiritual weapon flank?
It's a good question. Can flanking apply to
If
the?
at least 2 creatures are on opposite sides.
Yeah, it
is
says
not a
creatures.
Oh,
creature.
it's creatures.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, surely not. There's no way.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's see. What do I do for this?
You could bonfire one of the
Hmm.
either Xanavar or Kanako if you wanted to break them out of charm. Although Sun optimally would have both Kanako and Alana move out of the way so she can hit 4 with her Petal Dance.
Hmm. Can I hold an action at this point?
It takes your concentration.
Yeah, but the bonfire's not doing anything.
Wait, no, I think it only takes your concentration if you're doing it to cast a spell.
Yeah.
I would be doing it to cast a spell.
Okay, so yeah, you'd lose.
I
Put
mean,
your
that-
hold in.
That bonfire is useless.
Fairy
So I
fire.
don't think you're missing anything. Fairy
Gotcha.
fire. Oh,
What's the
sheesh.
trigger for it?
When these two move out of this area,
Gotcha.
and hopefully all 4 of these are still in it.
Alright. The trigger is when
What's that?
Kanko and Lorana are outside of that area.
That do
Oh,
be.
definitely be moving.
That does mean that Sun that has no dex is probably going to feel that.
Yeah. You can
You do
choose
have-
to also
have
include
Gillespie
sun.
Uh,
Or you
well,
could not.
the idea would be drop it as soon as Sun does their thing.
The Sunsling isn't attackable, it's a save.
Oh.
Yeah, up to you guys if
Oh, it's only attack rolls. Okay, that
Yeah.
the benefits of. Okay, maybe not. Hmm. I guess I could go with the classic because this guy's surrounded, basically, and it's kind of hard to move when you're surrounded, right? So, bonfire under their feet.
Alright, they'll make a deck save. They'll succeed.
Damn it. Oh well, there's a bonfire under their feet.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my turn.
Okie doke. Ganko, you are charmed by Harpy number 1.
Yes, I am.
I'll
Wow.
post this in chat. While charmed by the Harpy, you're incapacitated. There are songs of other Harpies. And move towards Harpy using the most direct route. It doesn't avoid opportunity attacks, but before moving into dangerous terrain, as a little bit gets a save. Well, as you have moved out of both of these two's range, they'll both take an opportunity attack against you.
How?
Actually, they would be hearing me about that once it's opportunity range.
Now,
Yeah.
question.
I mean, it will first be this one, you get a save, and then this one.
Is this the most direct route? Like, is going here?
The most direct route is a straight diagonal towards them.
Okay, so it would not pass with the square that has the bonfire.
It would not.
Okay.
So, first opportunity attack from Harpy number 1. Will that hit?
That's a hit. Yep.
That will be 10 damage and another wisdom save. See if you break free. They'll not succeed.
Nope.
A second attack of opportunity will be taken and will be missed. Alright. It's your
Yep.
turn. Zanvar is charmed by Harpy number 5. We'll move towards it. This is as far as he can really move towards it. And that one already made an attack of opportunity, so it'll be Zanvar's turn. Harpy number 3. I don't feel bad about this, but we'll step here, flanking on Sun, and make a claw attack.
Oh
That's a-
god.
At
That's what we wanted
disadvantage
to
because he
see.
took the dodge action.
Oh.
Gotcha.
Let's go!
That'll be
That
a
will
12.
miss.
Did call on the
We
dodge
love the
action.
dodge action.
And will then, with their other attack, make a club. Will a 19 hit?
That'll, yeah, that will hit and
That'll hit for
can't
8
be saved by a
damage.
guardian. Okay,
Use the first damage number.
and a Constitution saving throw. Flesh is still up.
Harpy number 4 will attack Elrana.
I still have shield up.
Hmm.
Doesn't fucking matter.
I'll hit for 10.
Bro, AC is a trap.
Lizzie, no!
How do I keep fucking selecting Lizzie?
I can't believe Lizzie
Lizzie.
sacrificed the biggest trashy. And we'll
Down
then
was the prison.
and we'll then club you and miss you to your
Yeah, that
additional
misses.
AC. All right. Your turn once again.
Man, I'm doing the El Clasico and doing this step.
Mm.
I'm actually just gonna fucking move. I've already caused problems by doing that. Oh god.
What?
I can't move myself now, what the fuck? Okay,
There you go.
yeah, I do step. Yada yada.
All right.
Yeah. That's... Does the thing trigger now, or is it... Do I have to move further?
What thing triggers?
Or did you not... Did you...
No, I didn't because it wouldn't actually
Okay.
help for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Alright.
If they're still there by the time my turn comes around again, I'm definitely doing that. 'Cause,
Alright.
yeah.
I'm also gonna just take another step. So... The ones that are singing right now... it's Harpy 1.
Harpy 1 and Harpy
And-
5.
Okay. I'm gonna Scorching Ray Harpy 1. Because why not?
All right.
Man. Why don't I just use fucking Magic Missile, man?
You do have bless.
I do have Bless.
All right. Roll
Oh, Bless is
two.
not factored into that.
Nope, it's not.
Roll for the 2 that are misses. They'll turn that into a hit, and I'll unfortunately still miss. So that will be 16 total fire damage onto Harpy number 1.
Hey.
Oucho.
Yeah, fuck it, we ball.
Go fast as fuck.
And I'm just gonna... How many... I'll keep one fucking Fussel. I'm just killing the Harpy 1.
Right. It'll be 5 plus 3, 8, 12, 14 force damage onto Harpy number 1.
Yeah.
Right.
Cost me 2 of these. And that will be the turn.
Okie dokie. Son.
So hear me out.
Mhm.
I could move here and uncharm Xanavar with this, but I'd also be hitting Noko with it. Or I could just stay here and just hit these 4.
That's up for Noko.
Uh,
It is a 2d6 damage roll and a dex save.
2d6, right?
Yep.
That's not terrible. Wait, what damage type is it?
Piercing.
Okay.
Just don't high roll.
But I don't want a super low roll either, because then
I mean, my
then
dex
it'll be
saves
in
are
the middle
not
of 4.
Medium roll.
terrible. I mean, I guess I can afford. I can take it. Although the question is, like, are my dex saves better than Xenovar's? Because it would kind of suck if, like, or wait, does it do half damage on pass?
It does half damage on pass.
Yeah, it will
so
for
he's-
sure deal damage.
Okay, that's fine then.
So you want me to move here and do it then?
Yeah.
Alright. So let's see what I roll. I max
Damn.
rolled.
That'll be
Alrighty.
a full damage hit onto Xanavar.
Okay.
What damage type is it again?
It's piercing.
Okay, so he has 1 DR for that, so he'll take
Or at
11.
least I'm pretty sure it's piercing.
It probably will be.
Piercing damage,
What?
yeah.
6 on me.
Yep.
Fail. Fail.
I think it's DC 13.
Pass. Pass. Okay, so Harpy 4 and no number succeed. Take 6 damage.
Oh, right. I have to do. I also have to do con save for.
And the other 2 take 12.
I think that's fine.
Alright.
So that was her action and her.
Oh wait. No, I did. Yeah.
There is currently a bonfire underneath this one that you are
Yeah.
concentrating on.
So I gotta do this.
And then bonus action on herself. Because she's now put herself in between 4 enemies.
Mhm.
Let's see. So that's 12 and 16 HP.
Can you step and then get out of there, or is it?
Well, step I could go to here, but then I wouldn't be. And I mean, I could step and go here.
No, it's not gonna really help much.
I will
Yeah.
say the logic currently is flanking, flanking.
Oh yeah, don't be. Never mind. Don't be in the center.
I will give you that one.
So, well, first let me figure out where my health is supposed to be. So that's 18 total. So 12 and 6.
Very nice.
And then save all.
I think being here might be better.
Oh no, because then those will just move to engage her, anyways. I guess they technically wouldn't get flanking though, but she would still. But if she moves here, those 2 might not attack
Well, it's
her.
also like
Oh, those 2 are also
this-
probably dead to.
this one's in a bonfire.
Those ones are dead to magic missile, actually.
Yeah.
So she will step here.
Okie dokie. That's all?
And that'll be Sun's turn.
Alright, Ladeka. You're up.
Alright. Check this.
Hmm?
I forgot this whole time that every long rest humans get a use of inspiration.
Wow.
So guess what we're doing? Never stop gambling.
Hey.
Never stop. Never stop
Never
the
sto-
game.
Gambling is an investment and an investment only.
Alright, let's see it.
So you're gonna
Nat
gonna
one,
empower
nat
the
This
second
one,
level
I mean,
as
badly.
well, right?
Nat
Oh, I
one.
forgot. I still have my inspiration.
Second
from, like,
level?
3
You know
sessions
what?
ago.
We're gonna go all in. We're gonna cash out. Second level. Empowered spellcasting. Let's go, baby. Let's go, baby.
I'm
Hit a
setting
home
you
run,
up to
baby.
fail.
Failure.
The
failure.
bonus, I always forget how this works.
I don't know how that works either.
It's my constitution bonus. So +2. Bang. Hold?
Holding.
Does this include bless? This does not include bless.
Alright.
Wait, +6. Concentration roll plus. Oh wait, hold on. This was actually a 11. I think I added this wrong. I need to fix this macro. Anyway, this doesn't include bless, so it's 11 plus 14.
11 plus 2 is 13.
Or 11, oh yeah, so it's a 13.
Still
Jesus.
not cast.
How does this inspiration is just a reroll, right?
You
Yeah.
roll the d20.
All right. Come on,
That makes it into a 14.
which I think is enough for a level 2 spell. It's two. It's 2 times the level of the spell, so it's 14. Right?
Yeah.
Hold on, let me double check.
Is it 12 plus or 10 plus?
Wait,
I don't remember.
I don't think it's plus. I think it is just. It's twice the level of this, or 10 plus twice the level of the spell. I
Yeah.
want to say if I'm checking.
Concentration check with a DC equal to 10 plus double the level of the spell you're attempting to enhance.
Okay, so that
yeah.
passes.
DC 14.
Whew.
Barely.
Sheesh.
Meets
Barely
Never
passes.
stop gambling.
Sun gives a thumbs up as he feels her plus do something.
Yes. I'll just give myself a spell slot back. Oh, never mind. It didn't use the spell slot. So we're going to level 2 magic missile, right?
Will maybe level 3, right? Because you empowered it.
Or level
Yeah.
3 magic missile.
Did
So that's an extra
D4 plus 1.
1d4. Actually, it's d4 plus 3 because it adds
Oh,
extra 2
okay.
damage.
Okay.
This is gonna be weird because I'm gonna do this in a strange way. So the first 3 bolts,
Mhm.
or the first 2 bolts are just gonna hit 1 and 2. Actually, it's gonna be first one is
2.
here.
Okay, first
Or
one's
no,
there.
not literally. No, sorry, hold on.
Okay.
It's gonna hit Harpy 2,
RP2.
2 on Harpy 4.
Okay.
So first, let me do it. I
1,
think Harpy
2.
1 is just dead. So there should be 2. Fucking math, man. So then it's an extra 2 damage on
Extra 2 damage on each of the missiles.
each of the bolts. Okay, good.
So that one takes 5.
5?
That one takes 5. That one takes
Yep.
Maybe you're just doing 2
Oh,
on that
whoops.
one.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yep,
So
so
it takes
1 missile number
1.
1, missile number 2, where is 3, 4, and 5
Missile
going?
number 3 is also going to Harpy 4
Gotcha.
just to make sure it's dead because I'm not sure.
So 2 and 3. Where's 4
Yeah,
and 5
then
going?
4 and 5 is going to Harpy number 3.
Gotcha. So missile number 1 deals 5 damage, killing Harpy.
And
Next
oh yeah,
one.
I'm done. I'm just doing the math too.
So missiles 2 and 3 is 4 plus 6, so 10 damage onto Harpy number 4. Is dead. And then raining missiles are 4 plus 2, so 6. And then 12 damage.
I think that is correct.
I don't know where I got 11 from, because
Isn't it plus 2 on top of, because it's 1d4
yeah,
plus
I got 4 plus 2 plus 4 plus 2 for a total of
Am I being
12.
dumb again?
Eh,
But
maybe.
each
I'm gonna
each
deal
bolt is
12
1d4
damage.
plus, it's 1d4 plus 1 plus 2 from empowered spellcasting.
Okay,
so
so
wouldn't it be plus 3?
Okay,
Gambling
fine.
worth the
It should
math.
be higher
it's-
then. It should be higher then. It should be 13 damage.
Oh, probably.
Regardless,
The gambling is not
Also
worth the
does
math,
kill.
but
math is
I killed 3
hard.
of them.
Good job.
Kind of wonder if I've been doing the math wrong this whole time, but I won't think
Who
about that.
knows? Harpy number 5
Who knows,
will
dog?
use its bonus action to sustain its song.
Bastard.
And let's see.
Oh yeah, I cover my ears.
Hmm,
That's my turn.
gotcha. It will. Let's see. It'll fly above you far enough that it doesn't provoke and land here. It will make a claw attack against Kaneko. Using this flanking. Does a 16 hit? It does not.
Nope. 17. I
No,
see.
that also doesn't. Well, good job, Harpy number 5. You're useless. Harpy with no number will take a step and attack Sun. A claw attack. It's a 21 hit.
It does.
Right, that'll be 7 damage. And then a club attack for a 17. That hit.
That will also hit.
And that'll
So-
be 13 damage.
Alright, and let's see. Do. Bless this down.
Oof.
Rest in peace, bless. Alright. Be number 1 will get their turn. They will sustain the song, and one thing I will note in the song is whenever it takes damage from a source other than the Harpy. So these do not provoke saves. Actually, correction, at the end
Yep.
of your turn you should have made a save. That was missed. You want to make that save right now?
Sure.
As my bad for not catching it at the time.
Sheesh.
Alright.
Damn.
You are not charmed. However, you still are where you are.
Yeah.
Also, I forgot to make it for Xanavar as well. Okay. Check his buttons. They're there. Wisdom, advantage. Alright, he is also no longer
Oh.
charmed.
He's no longer just because I hit him with petals, so.
Oh yeah, that as well. I forgot about that.
Oh, but actually, no, that actually is important though, because because then, he would have made that at the end of his turn, and so Sun wouldn't have moved there and hit Noko and Xanavar.
Yeah, that is my bad. I will say you can heal up the damage that you took from that. That is something I should have caught.
All right. It was what, 6, I think?
Yeah, if you took half.
Xanavar only heals 11 because he had the DR.
True. What does he have before I healed him? He should have been missing one. That's correct. All right. Apologies for me missing that. That's my bad. But carrying on with Harpy 1's turn, it will make a claw attack against Kaneko. That will
Oh.
not confirm,
Ow.
but will be 10 damage. And a club attack as an 18.
Sheesh.
Just
Yeah,
great.
I'm down
They
from it.
will go down if you don't Guardian.
He wants to. Do you want the Guardian or do you want me to Guardian?
I can. I'm just worried about the spell failure.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Well, what level
You
is
know what?
Guardian?
Yeah, it's a first level spell. I'll do it.
It's a 10% or it's a 5% chance.
Okay.
I saw the one at the beginning.
Yeah, I
of
saw the
talking
one. I'm
about-
like, there's no way.
Alright. It does not hit. Harpy 6 is dead. Harpy 2 is dead. Noko.
All right. I'm gonna move here. I'm gonna use Cure Wounds.
Mm-hmm.
God, I hope this doesn't fail.
Oh god.
Tragic. As you cast the healing magic, the runes on your arm seem to pulse as the magic flows through them, causing pain, causing the spell to fail.
Mm-hmm. The worst. Okay. Well, I tried. But also spiritual weapon. Smack this guy. Oh. Okay.
That will
Does
unfortunately
the
miss.
spiritual weapon get the bless
It-
us
it-
all?
Bad days.
It gets Bane too, because it's me making the attack.
Oh yeah, so it would fail anyways.
Mm.
Because the best they could get is a 13.
Isn't
Well.
Blessed down?
Oh yeah, bless
I
is down
didn't-
anyways. True.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't
Oops.
have blessed as well.
Wait,
You
you don't
also
have
you didn't
anymore?
have bless. I don't know what I'm talking about.
There are
I'm
many
dumb.
things not lying.
I was just like, I casted bless. Everyone has bless. No one has
Yeah.
bless because I dropped it.
My bless. No.
I'm just used to playing characters, so 20 con and Resilient con and Forecaster and bless never going down.
Anything else?
Yep, that's my turn.
Gotcha. Genko, your turn.
Ah. Harpy 1.
All right. I'll hit for 11 damage, cutting it down.
And Probably should make an accurate. Use one key. Blurry. Wow.
That will hit. Sure. Will not confirm, so it will be 11 damage.
That was 2 hits.
So
Ah.
14 doesn't hit.
Uh,
Yeah, 15.
the 15 will hit. I did not see it. My bad. There you go. It's 8 damage.
That'll be my turn.
Alright. Zavar will receive initiative and will move here to flank. He will make a claymore attack against this harpy. That will unfortunately miss. You guys are probably resting. We'll use action surge and make another attack. That will hit with flanking for 9 damage. God, my rolls are bad.
Wow.
And that'll be Zambar. Harpy 3 and 4 are dead. Lorana.
I don't get flanking from ranged attacks, do I?
You do not.
I don't remember. Okay. I don't remember how the fuck flanking works in this. I haven't actually read that.
Screenshot it.
I guess I just shoot Harpy 5 because it's the lowest. You'll be fine. Sun will be fine, surely.
Sun will be fine.
21 for 3 on Harpy 5.
Alright, that will hit. 3 damage.
Wicked. That's the turn. She covers her ears.
That's nice.
Though I don't
Done.
remember if I've done these safe.
Are we gonna try to long rest after this? Or no?
I'm down to keep going because I can just use my Sork points to give myself 1 second level slot back.
I think Hanako will probably be fine. Without a
Short
heal.
rest.
Short rest, yeah, probably.
Long
Long
rest.
rest.
Healing.
I think we should save long rest till we get to the town.
Yes.
Yeah,
We're
I don't
already
wanna...
way behind schedule, I think.
Yeah. So Sun will just axe and dodge.
Gotcha.
And that'll be Sun's turn.
Ledeka.
Alright, I'm gonna start cooling it on the spells, I think. After that. Mostly because I don't feel like doing the math again. And I'm just going to Firebolt Harpy number 5.
Alrighty.
Bang! Die!
That'll hit.
That.
For 7 damage. Oucho.
This is the part where I would quicken spell if I had it. I'll move back. Did all the harpies sing their song already?
Make me a tactics check to see if you can figure that out.
Oh god, I don't have any tactics.
Pretty sure
You're
5
unsure.
song.
Covering my ears again. That's my turn.
Alright. Harpy number 5 will receive initiative. And we'll consider their options.
Die.
They have considered that one and say no you and attack Kanko.
Well, that's not working out very well for them, is it?
That'll be a 14 to hit. And a 25 to hit.
Always.
I don't think we can block that.
Nope.
No,
No.
no, we can't.
Alright, that'll be 10 damage.
Dang.
Owie.
Hey, oh.
Oh god, no!
Alright, well.
Sun
Sun
can
cursed
heal.
me.
Yeah, now that
Sun
She'll
can
be
heal her.
fine.
and now
Yeah.
we'll.
I mean, you will be
move
fine
over
because
to
Sun will
here.
heal.
Sun could probably heal you
Yeah,
back up
sure.
to full, to be honest.
Um, you are in
I
Sun's
am
full heal
dumb.
range
I am
if she uses
dumb.
her.
I forgot that Xanavar has Sentinel. And that was
Oh.
an attack on an ally.
Oh yeah.
Is it if the enemy within 5 feet makes an attack on an ally, or is it if it attacks an ally within 5 feet? I need to look at that.
That's a good question.
When a
It-
creature within 5 feet of you makes an attack against a
it-
target other than you, you can use your reaction to make a melee weapon attack against.
It had to be the creature within 5 feet because it wouldn't make sense for you
Yes.
be within 5 feet of your ally because then that creature could be outside of your reach.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'll hit for the harpy. Harpy will be dead as soon as it makes the attack. So, oop, it's dead. This is why it would be much better to have him here, but it's unfortunate that we cannot.
Yeah.
The last remaining harpy will, at disadvantage, make a claw and club attack against Sun. That'll be a 21.
That will hit.
Alright, that'll hit for 9. And club will be a 14.
That will miss.
Gotcha. Play the harpy's turn. No go.
Wait, is Kanako still down?
Yes,
Yeah,
the
Sun-
attack
Sun-
happens
Sun-
first.
Yeah,
Oh,
Sun will heal them on her turn.
So, but like, is it the first attack?
Let me.
Oh, it
Was the first attack the one that downed her? Oh yeah.
was the second attack that down to.
Oh, okay, then yeah, no, you would be up actually. So
Oh yeah. It was the second attack that downed her.
Yep,
So,
so
yeah.
you would be up. So. Heal up.
Okay.
Oh wait,
Uh,
I had 8 health. What am I doing?
Sun
Nope.
was right.
I guess spiritual weapon moves here.
Mhm.
Hits.
Make the attack. I'll hit for 6.
Yay! It hit for once.
You doke.
And I guess I bonfire it.
Okay, it'll make its deck
Fuck.
save. It will fail and take 8 fire damage.
Oh, it is drop lowest too, so or minimum 2, so I guess I've just been rolling lucky for that. Okay.
Takes fire damage. Anything else?
We don't really have much tactics check left. I guess that's it. I can't think of
Gotcha.
anything else we need.
I
Yeah,
think
go.
we just kill it.
Mhm.
It's got a lot of health left. Oh, hold on.
Others and others. I will say if you move like into like a position where Xanavar can flank, he'll take that as an opportunity. Where you are right now, he can't flank.
I think it's more of just like getting the flank with Sun.
Sun does not provide
Sun doesn't get
flanking.
flank because
Yeah.
he doesn't
Oh.
have a melee weapon.
Yeah.
Oh.
That is still a natural 22 hit for 14 damage.
Goodness gracious.
+3 insight to confirm, so the confirm is a 14, correct?
It's a net 6. It's a 9.
Oh,
to confirm.
yeah, I was looking at the damage. Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
That'll be 14 slashing damage. Oucho.
Yeah.
Well-
And I'm gonna punch
So
you
it's a
twice.
natural 6 the actual roll on the d20, so you'd still get your
Yeah, it would still have the +6, and then
plus 6.
yeah. So actually, with
It'd be a
the
15?
What's the possibility? It would actually crit confirm. Or additional mage. Let's see. Is it the first one? The first one's 3d6. Do you want to roll 2d6? Because those are from your other thing, I think, are they?
My great sword has deadly and lethal.
Oh, so it would be 3d6 plus the 2d4?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, well, that'll be 19 damage. That would have been enough damage to nearly one-shot the harpy at full health. So, it did. With that, all the harpies are perished. Combat is ended.
That was
Alright.
unfortunate.
How was the fight that we took the most
I-
damage in? A bunch
I
of
did
harpies.
31,
Yeah.
33 damage.
Like I said, textbook ambush.
Odds.
Well, that was something.
It hurt a lot.
Yeah. Should we find some shelter around here?
Probably
Yeah,
should.
let's-
I'm feeling a bit hurt.
Let's just
Well, we
take like an
can-
hour or so. and
Ah.
just, outside of the elements.
Preferably somewhere away from here.
Mm,
Search for a cave.
Alright, make me survival checks.
So Sun is good at
I
this,
will check.
I think.
I think I have proficiency.
Oh. That's a natural 20 right there for a 25. Pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good survival.
I don't think I survive.
Pretty good.
With those rolls, you're able to fairly easily find a cave that will provide protection from the elements for a rest. And so if you want to take a short or long rest, you can attempt to.
Just a short little snooze.
That's a short rest.
Yeah.
How many fucking hit die do I have? I have 3. It's equal to level. I don't remember. I don't know how the fuck Sirik does this.
Yeah. What is Oracle's hit die? Is it
Um,
D8 or D6?
It's a D8. It's a D8. It's the same as cleric.
Okay. I'm gonna just use one then.
Yes, short rest button.
Well,
I don't think that automatically heals and just rolls it. Okay.
Mine automatically healed me.
So I took 10 damage in that. Wait, oh. Yeah, we're all using the same macro though. Okay, I think it
Yeah.
did that.
Yeah, it did because mine healed me.
Alright.
That's nice. Right. From here, you guys have successfully short rested.
Mhm.
What does the party do now? Continue on their way. Go find a different thing. Just leave. Just be done with this and leave.
I
and
jump
just...
into the lake.
Mm-hmm.
Hippie!
Option is yours.
yeah, can you continue on to the village, no?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think.
continue to town.
Yeah.
Have a proper snooze there.
Okie Once again, Zavar's token shall vanish into the void.
No.
You guys make your way up the path. The snow slowing your travel by a bit. Up until you see wood and people along the road, as you discover there has been a blockade created on this path.
Oh no. Bandits?
Well, once you load
There
in,
better not be people here after I just swapped my spells to sorcery points, or my sorcery points to spells.
Michael.
Oh, it's actual people, not bandits.
No,
They're
it could
very-
be heavily armored bandits.
If the bandits with that armor that heavy are very, very dangerous because that means they've killed people with that armor.
Halt! What brings you here?
We've been sent by the Inquisition to go shrine to shrine because there's been disturbances among them. This is our next stop is through these mountains to shrine to the which way is the shrine?
North, northwest, northeast.
Northeast, yeah.
Yeah,
To the
northeast. Yeah.
To the northeast, and we are going to take some time to stop in. What's the town that we're not
It's
about to enter?
Shut-ins.
That town.
Yeah, I forgot the name.
Yeah, that town.
Where the fuck is the map?
Here, hold on.
So the town is Shut-ins?
Shut-ins.
There.
Okay.
I posted
Settings.
the map.
Shut-ins is closed to outsiders. Turn around and go back to where you came from.
May we ask why?
Did you say that loud enough for the guards to hear?
Yeah, I'm asking them.
Well, you said maybe ask why, implying
No,
you're
may
not talking-
we ask
Oh,
why?
I heard maybe.
Oh no.
Yeah, I heard maybe too.
There has recently been a assault on the town by an outsider, and we are currently investigating to find the source. During this time, outsiders are not permitted.
Gods.
Did this outsider happen to be a death elf?
One of them was a potential suspect, yes.
He is the person responsible for the attacks on these shrines.
We have potential information that could help in this situation.
Do you have
If you
proof
could
of your
allow us-
claims?
Yes, we have a book detailing various crimes from a particular individual who could be relevant in this situation. If we could be allowed inside, at least for a time, so you could verify us, then we would be happy to show you.
Alright. One of the guards comes over and opens the gate.
Okay.
Easy.
Rana will look to Latico. Just say, like, get the book out, please.
He already has it out. Nods.
Sen will take a slight bow of appreciation for being let in.
And then we start attacking and killing them.
You can certainly
TPK,
try.
TPK.
Yeah. We all fucking die.
Once you're in, the gate will be reclosed.
Do we have, like, actual evidence of our job? Like, just like, the contract or whatever by the Inquisition? Some proof that we can show them for that, specifically, or not?
You
Like-
were not given anything by the Inquisition, and
Okay.
if you would have asked for it, you would have been given a reason why you wouldn't.
Okay.
Huh.
So, if any of you in character would have asked the Inquisition for proof, they would have given you a reason. Like, a reason that you know isn't entirely truthful of why they would not have given you it.
No.
Anything
It just
connecting
didn't-
you with them.
It just didn't occur to me until now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I
It
didn't.
wouldn't. It wouldn't
Yeah.
have occurred to Sun to ask for proof that they're on an Inquisition thing.
Mhm.
She thought
Yeah,
that
no.
stopping by the shrines would be proof enough that they're doing something for the country.
Noko would not have thought to ask at all. Maybe now she would, but not then.
Alright, present the information you have.
Ladika hands over the book, the journal.
You'll take it and start to flip through it, reading it. This is specifically which one? There's been a couple of his things that you've picked up.
The one that I have written down is the one that we found in the first shrine, where he details his experiments with the blight.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
If anyone else has any of the other books, unless you handed them to me, you know. Yeah,
I
that's the one that
have
I handed over.
Alrana will explain.
none of
We
the
can't
book.
say for certain about what's happening in town. However, we have been specifically assigned to work to deal with the blight. And this is the information that we've been given so far. If the situation in Shudance is at all related to that, then it may be relevant for us. And this information may be relevant to you.
He will close the book after reading part of it. I'm afraid we are going to have to detain you for being potential associates of this individual.
Oh, Jesus
I'm
fucking
sorry,
Christ.
what?
In
Do you
the...
have someone with sending here? For the love of God.
We do not.
Oh my god, what a worthless fucking outpost you have.
Respectfully, sir, if we were associates of this man, why on earth would we waltz back to the scene of the crime? We're after him, assuming he's the one who did this to your town.
From the reading that you have given me, it appears that this individual saw you as potential allies. Due to this, we cannot permit you to freely reign.
The Dika pinches the bridge of her nose. If you so wish to waste our time while he's out there wreaking havoc on our country, potentially other towns on the way through these shrines, then sure. Please, do waste our time. But we have nothing to hide.
Do you have anything else that could assist in proving that you are not associates and / or allies of this individual?
I'm assuming first-hand accounts of our experience with him won't matter. How he sicked his blighted monsters on a town, or on a shrine, full of innocent people that we had to defend.
Make a persuasion check.
I'm good at those! Let's go! Wait, I have another idea, assuming this doesn't work, but let's just do a regular persuasion check first. Yeah, listen to me. Listen to me! Finally! Sorcerer doing sorcerer things!
Alright. We just need to document who you are and allow you to pass through this area. Fortunately, Shudance is still closed to outsiders. That is not a policy I have the authority to overrule.
Who can we talk to if it we wish to move our investigations to that area. As I say, if it's that dark elf has been, or that elf has been here, we need to be able to pick up his trail again.
Especially if he may have accomplices. You said he was one of the suspects, yes?
That's correct. We have a total of 5 that we have investigated.
Goodness. Yes, is there anyone we could possibly talk to at least learn more?
Is there anyone from the Inquisition here?
At this current location, no. At Shut-ins, you likely... There is a Inquisition member there.
Is there someone who could potentially send a message there?
Yeah.
Here?
He will sort of head down to one of the tents and pretty much pull out paper and write a short message on it before closing it, sealing it, and then handing it off to Ladeka. This contains
Grabs.
my signature and a message for the captain of the guards to at least hear you out. Pretty much, if you are able to take this to Shut-ins, arrive at one of the gates, hand it to one of the guards there, potentially you could... It should be relayed and it should give you an audience.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do hope that I am not making a mistake in giving you this lenience. Please, as I said before, I need to document who passes through this barricade, so please give me your names and occupations.
Elrana Driscos, Dragon Scholar and Adventurer.
He'll nod.
I'm Sun. I heal people.
Okay. Next.
Ladika, Dragon Scholar as well, and Adventurer.
Alright.
I'm Noko, just an adventurer.
Hmm.
I'm Kanako. Adventurer, monk.
Right. Thank you very much. Apologize for the necessary paperwork. But you have to understand, we've been under a stressful situation.
Mm-hmm.
We can... Look, if it helps at all, we can give an account of one of the people that we have seen. The person described in that diary. They effectively attacked us with blight monsters at one of the shrines not far... pretty far from here, actually. The one near Arcadia.
We also have
I
reason
see.
to believe that Arcadia was the town we stopped in, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They may have also been in Arcadia and they laid a few traps for the villagers. We found traces of blight in the nearby town. Dealt with when we passed through.
Understood. Thank you for your information.
You said you said 5 suspects?
That is correct.
Do you have a description of the others?
The first is a middle-aged death elf with pale hair, even paler skin. He tends to wear long outfits covering most of his body. He has been last seen heading north from Shut-ins. Has not been spotted since. Our second suspect is a elderly man who has once been in Shut-ins for his entire life, who had, on the day of the incident, moved away with no speaking to anybody else. Settlement. After that, we have a young woman, blonde, blue eyes, who pretty much showed up on the day of the attack and fled before any questioning could occur. Next suspect is a armored individual, 6'9", carrying a greatsword. No other description is available for them, as they were only seen briefly. And lastly was a elderly individual with priest garb, who was last seen heading south from Shadens. Bald, appeared to have a injured arm. As the full description we have for him as well.
Sen will describe the person at the shrine, at the third shrine, to
Oh,
see if that's
fuck.
Knew
matches
it.
to the description.
That would match the description.
No, we trusted him. I trusted him.
So you said he does.
That would fit the description of the fifth individual, correct?
We saw somebody who met that description back over at the shrine near Arcadia. We thought something was weird about him, but none of us could really figure out anything concrete. He also had a blight arrow in one of the caskets in there, but we destroyed it.
Understood. We'll dispatch a group to investigate to confirm any potential suspicion. Bring him in for questioning and overall attempt our best to remove him as a suspect or to arrest him should he have been the one who caused this issue.
Everyone is just like fucking cursing under our breath, just thinking about the money we left there.
Our gold, no!
Wait, our money!
And then they're gonna do the investigation of it, and they're gonna find the
fucking-
gold and they're
Oh
gonna
my
confiscate it.
god! Ladika like pulls her hat down just in frustration.
Is there anything
We should have
else?
killed that old man when we had the chance.
I believe that's all. Well, the elf that we found, he did seem capable in the arcane arts. A wizard or something like that? Maybe a sorcerer? I'm not sure.
He's not easily detained. That's for sure.
Understood. Do you have details of his abilities?
We did do a tactics check on him at the time, right? And we
Indeed.
got the
We-
idea that he was like a tier above us.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He's pretty powerful. I'm unsure exactly how much, but he is more knowledgeable in the arcane arts than at least I am. I attempted to hold person him so we could detain him for questioning, but he shrugged it off. Then he misty stepped into the forest. So he is versed in the arcane, but I'm unsure by how much.
I'll put it this way. If I had to gamble on whether or not he could, cast a fireball, he probably could.
That's a pretty good metric, yes.
Okay.
You could
Understood.
probably cast 2.
If he was quick enough.
Yeah. That would hurt. Fire hurts me a lot.
I would say fire hurts most of us a lot.
Sun is for the roll of fire damage.
Oh god. Oh no.
Oh.
Yeah,
What-
but
Sun
Sun
being
looks like
hit
a
by-
fountain, so maybe it hurts more.
Sun being hit by 2 fireballs and just being erased from Sirik.
I
does
find
have
it funny. We
He does
have
have elements though.
Good.
our 2 healers. Fire. Hurt by fire.
Yeah. There's a reason why I did the green steer so I could pick up absorb elements.
Very good choice. I did
Hey.
not realize you were vulnerable to fire. You probably
re-
said it, it didn't click.
Yeah, I offhandedly made a little bit of a joke about it earlier. Where I'm like, yeah, the fire mages can keep everyone warm with fire.
Oh, that means that the fire spider fight was really dangerous for you.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was.
Yeah.
Fire's fun. I like fire. Smile.
I wish you luck in tier 2 combat.
Yeah, like I said, there's a reason why, because the way absorb elements is worded, it doesn't say it changes vulnerability to normal. It just says you gain resistance.
Yeah.
Ah.
So you would have resistance and vulnerability, and they would cancel out.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
if
so
you
you take-
had absorb elements and then took elemental adept, oh wait, that doesn't give you resistance. Is there any way to gain fire resistance? Like a feat or something?
Be a
I don't think-
tiefling.
Oh, true.
be an oracle.
Just change your race or class, easy.
True.
Yeah,
I
just
get
Probably a
it.
feat for it,
change.
but I don't know.
I get it
Just
from
get resurrected.
Revelation. So
Is it resurrection or that changes your race?
reincarnation.
Reincarnation.
Is the one where you
I
roll
couldn't remember if
on
reincarnation was a was a spell. Yeah, just get reincarnated, bro.
and oh god, the tables.
Nonetheless, how much further is it from to town from here? Would you just estimate?
From here, about 2 hours,
Okay.
give
that's
or
not too
take the
bad.
weather.
I'd rather get there sooner than later. I want a warm bed.
Absolutely.
And hopefully not get kicked out immediately.
I wish you luck in receiving access to the city. I wouldn't count on it, though.
I appreciate your generosity.
I'll nod and signal for a guard for it to open up the other gate.
I can't believe we were actually almost about to get arrested.
Mm-hmm.
I was
You
like,
did-
what the heck?
You did give him a book that started with, "Hey, I wasn't able to talk with you about this, but..."
My thought process is, why on earth would we come back here and willingly hand over evidence that would tie us to this guy?
You might be an idiot. He doesn't know that.
I mean, fair, I
mean-
guess, but I'm like, what the heck?
We do be dumping int in this party.
Mhm.
None of us are like stupid though, I think.
Hmm.
Anyone negative in here?
I'm not.
Sun is negative
I'm
int.
Probably.
Yeah,
Oh.
sun is.
Pushes my glasses up with my +1 int. Ignoramuses.
That's okay. I'm just hot.
You could be hot and smart, like yours truly.
Yeah, but I'm no. I dumped smart for hot.
Be even hotter.
Hmm.
I dumped strong to be hot.
Oh, don't worry. I dumped fucking strong as well. Well,
Yeah.
I have a 10 in, but yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
You can't kill me. I'm too sexy.
Sun has 6 strength. Smile.
Noko is gonna comment on the descriptions of the group that or the other group. Do you think any of those that were described, that the guards described, were either that Anton or Luna person? That
Oh, we should have asked what they looked like.
Well,
It's possible, but yeah, we really should have asked what they looked like from the guy. Because how are we even supposed to find them?
Our gold and silver are left with that guy.
Oh,
I don't care
no.
what Xanabar says. We are keeping what little gold that we got from that fucking shrine.
Ah, well,
And not
I
losing
shouldn't-
that as well. We're not giving that to the Inquisition.
I shouldn't be worried about that. What if that man decides to make a move on the town after we've left? The gold will be the least of our worries if he decided to attack the town because he thinks he might be found out.
There's
I
nothing
think
we can really do about it right now.
I feel like he'll probably be more likely to flee than attack the town. He didn't seem like that strong, and at least
Assuming that he is a co-conspirator of this Death Elf, I don't think they're the most rational individuals. Don't forget that this man tried to have a cordial conversation with us after attempting to kill us and 5 innocent people.
Good point.
Yeah, I would say that. Although from a logical standpoint, if he was trying to hide, and people specifically looking for people connected to Blight trusted him, he'd probably feel pretty safe about where he is now.
Ah, can't believe I was fooled by him. Ah, whatever.
I mean, there's still a chance he could be good, and just be unlucky.
That is
But the
possible. He is a
chances
he
are
is a
that,
witness. This doesn't mean that he necessarily was guilty of anything.
although it's weird that he would have had to have taken a part of the Blight with him for it to have ended
I-
up in this shrine.
One thing, now that I think of it, we probably shouldn't show off any of the other notes from the other shrine
I believe
to
we
the.
should. I think it would be more suspicious if we didn't.
I don't know.
Look.
The ones, the way they're written seems. I'm worried that we might get another reaction like that.
And we
We
don't
need
have
to-
anything to
Look,
hide.
we need to talk to someone in the Inquisition because they are the most likely to know about our job and the fact that we're getting paid for this. So if we
Also,
actually
feel
describe
free to
the
insight
situation-
check.
Well, right now I have no reason not to trust you. You don't have any ulterior motives. Clueless.
I guess we should probably
Fair
just
enough.
roll deception for just to see how well she's trying to hide it.
That's up to you.
Yeah. Well, might as well. Okay.
Hold on.
Wait. Actually, I literally can't be that even if I rolled insight, and I don't have any reason not to trust you. What did innocent thing to raise?
Look, the Inquisition is most likely to know about our job, and as much as I hate talking to those fuckers, we still have to because they're our best out in this situation. Not
It's
to
either
mention,
that.
they can literally just, sniff the heresy out on us if it fucking comes to it, and they're not gonna find
Indeed.
anything.
Nope.
It's either that,
Try.
either that, or we get locked up in a cell for who knows how long, which means that the Death Elf will have more time to spread his blight. So we should be as forthright as we can. I'd rather not waste more time here, especially if he's on the move, and especially if he has co-conspirators.
Let's get moving.
We get moving.
We go.
People leave.
No! No, go!
Watch the void.
No! Our healers! Our healers! Wait!
Can't believe both healers just jumped into the void.
Oh boy, maybe the world
Oh
really
no,
is
the
flat.
train didn't render.
Our
Don't
chunks aren't
care.
loading fast enough.
I can't believe the 10 fire dragons on the other side of this clip did not render, and now we're jumping straight towards them.
It's okay. I have bonuses for checks against fire dragons. I can
Oh,
talk to
good.
them.
I can just
Wait.
absorb the elements.
Elrond and I can both talk to them. Don't worry. We'll riz them up for you. Then they won't hurt us.
Yeah, the two with Riz can talk to dragons.
Yeah. The two dragon sorcerers with riz. We got them.
We literally fucking double our checks with
Yeah.
persuasion checks with fucking dragons.
Wait. What would be my persuasion check
roll,
against a
roll it,
dragon?
Deca, let's see it.
Alright, let's see.
We'll get the wording.
Persuasion. So it would be a
21.
plus 14. Yes, it would be base
Yeah,
plus
let-
14 against a
Let me
dragon.
let me double check what the wording is. It's your proficiency bonus is doubled specifically.
So
Oh,
it
your
would be
prof bonus.
so it
It's
would
a
be a
+9.
16.
Alright, it's
Oh,
pretty
so
good.
it's expertise.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
specifically with dragons.
You have expertise with talking with dragons.
Yeah,
Yes.
so whenever that comes up.
Hmm.
I don't think I'm allowed to use dragons in this tier.
I would
I don't
hope
think
not.
Not even
I
like.
don't think I would get
wormlings?
approval. Nah, I'm
Oh
joking.
wait, wormlings are like CR
Yeah.
Damn.
I think if I
What's up?
asked nicely, I could, but I don't want.
I
Yeah,
put
I
in
joke.
research to go and look for a dragon, but
You're
no,
gonna
it's
get the
fine.
you're gonna get the
I literally want to fucking have a chat with a dragon, basically.
you're gonna get the research back there like hell no.
No.
God,
Actually, I mean, being from Elderia, there's probably a decent chance you could talk to a
man,
dragon.
I just haven't. There's something Noko has been meaning to tell Ladeka, but I just haven't had the chance to say
What
it.
is you up to?
It's more
What?
of like
What are you hiding?
back in like the fucking registration event or whatever, registration day event.
Mm.
Noko had promised to get you info for about dragons.
Oh yeah, you did do
Yeah.
that.
And it's just like I haven't had the like opportunity where it makes sense.
Well, in and out of character, Ladika is completely forgotten. You'll have to jog her memory. Actually, now she's remembered, but now's not the time.
Yeah. And it's like I was gonna actually do downtime day research for it, but then cursed.
Then
Yeah,
something else
think the
came up.
curse- Yeah, I think the
Yep.
curse would take precedence over that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fun.
All right, here we go again. Aw shit, here we go again.
Halt. The two
Ironic,
on the
it
side will
wasn't
have arrows pretty much trained on you. Shadens is closed to
boy.
visitors.
We have a note from the guard captain. I'll hold up the note. We're here on official business. Very important business, in fact. We were hired by the Inquisition.
I doubt that's from the guard captain, but I assume you might be a bit ignorant and be talking about a guardsman from somewhere else.
Looks again. Was this?
Hey, it's meant for the guard captain, not from the guard captain.
Oh, wait. Text again. Yes, you're right. This is meant for the guard captain, but we did pass through the guard outpost. Ladika's tail like twitches a little bit. Twitches a little bit.
The guard will cast Mage Hand and pretty much have it grab the letter. He'll open it. He won't say anything as he walks away.
Actually quite concerned about the damage he may have caused if the security is this tight.
I want to go to bed.
I'm very
Are there-
concerned too.
Are there any
Links.
like visible like is there any evidence that we can see of like blight damage?
Oh
or
yeah, any
whatever?
devastation we can see from here, or do these walls go up all around the city? How big is Shudden's actually?
Shunt's is of decent size. It's not crazy big.
Big enough to have exterior walls?
Yeah, like this isn't that big of a wall. It's maybe like 10 feet tall.
Okay.
Yeah, about that, yeah.
I might have used the wrong building sizes on my map. 'Cause I thought Arcadia was bigger than Shudden's, but Arcadia ended up being kind of tiny.
Yeah, both are like village sizes. One is just
One has a bit more wealth. They
yeah.
can
I think
afford
the-
walls.
Biggest one that we're gonna run into on our path is like Tranquillus.
Um,
'Cause
yeah, it is.
it looks big.
Big.
Time passes. You still have these two guards holding arrows pointed at. Let's see, who would they be pointing at? We'll call it Noko and Elrana.
Do you
Damn.
mind if I smoke? Or
The one with
like Rana's just like looking at the guys like,
Yeah.
can I smoke?
They seem quite interested in you specifically, and you, Noko.
well, I can imagine why. And like, yeah, just kind of motions big glowing runes down her arm.
Yeah, but also gestures at Xanavar and his giant like death armor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Zavar
My
is
fluffy
like
tails.
pretty much. They may be like pointing the arrow, but they're also looking at an additional target, just sort of watching. And about you asking them if you can smoke, they do not answer.
I'm just gonna take that silence as a yes, and they will very slowly and very clearly take out a cigarette and put it in their mouth, and then light it.
Can't believe this is how you die.
Quick question:
Try-
is there any visual cue if I were to channel my spell slots back into sorcery points?
I'm gonna go with yeah, probably.
Okay, doesn't do that then. Let's
Yeah,
not
let's
start
do
a
that.
scene.
It would be funny though.
It would be. I'm just trying to find an opportune time to like channel like a spell slot back, like or like one sorcery point back. So if I need to do any twin casting, I can twin or subtle casting.
Is it
Probably
normally like it would be an action to
it
convert
would be
it?
an action.
Damn.
As you are standing there, you hear sort of the gates begin to slowly open. As an individual in very similar armor to the rest, but with more flair, more decoration, more prestige, will step out. All right, each of you tell me who you are and your purpose for being in the city. This is a formality. Do not worry.
My name is Sun. I'm here because we are investigating people or disturbances among the shrines in the nearby areas, and we've specifically found, well, a death elf that we believe that he's the cause of most of the blight incidences around here.
Mhm.
I'm Ladika. We're all here for the same reason as Sun. We have information that might help you all in your investigation. Seems to be the same as ours, at least as far as we know.
Mm-hmm.
Elrana Driscoll like waves her hand. Same old.
Mm-hmm. Looks towards the two in the back.
I'm Noko, and I'm doing the same thing as
Mhm.
the rest.
And you?
Kanako.
Okie doke.
Mm.
Alright. Follow me. We'll walk in.
Follows him.
And we'll head into this building right to the side. As you enter, it seems to be sort of like an office. Paperwork is all over the place. Not the most well organized.
Is it warm in here?
It is.
Oh,
It's
beautiful.
very nice and warm in here. And the individual will take off their helmet, revealing a ordinary looking dude under it. Alright. So, say you're all here on a mission from the Inquisition to investigate blight related stuff.
That is correct, yes. Is that we were under the impression that there was someone from the Inquisition here.
Yeah, I sent someone to go get them.
Alright, thank you. I couldn't say for certain whether or not they would know of our objective. However, hopefully they can vouch for us.
Or at
Yeah.
least hopefully they know the person who gave us the mission.
Yeah, hopefully. He'll sort of just be rubbing his, like, temples. I just...
I-
Anytime I have to deal with the
apologize.
Inquisition, it's an annoyance.
Yeah, I understand.
Especially in times like these when you have such... I don't really know exactly what happened. But obviously something major has happened for the security to be this tight.
Yeah, it's... It's... The whole thing is a mess. Inquisition hasn't been making my life any easier, overruling my orders, which they shouldn't have the authority to do, but it seems like, oh, this is a matter that concerns them, so they start overriding everything. In his hand, he sort of like was holding like a pencil, and he sort of just like is holding it really tightly. It feels like it could snap at any second.
Yeah, I understand that. They aren't the easiest to deal with.
They're not. Okay, so do you want to give me the rundown while you guys are here waiting?
Yeah.
Sure. More or less, we've been going shrine to shrine at this point. Checking them for blight. I believe one of our first stops was... Well, I wasn't there at the first stop. I joined part way.
Mm.
It was infected with blight. It was dealt with. Then I joined, and we kept moving to the second shrine.
Mm.
Uh,
You have these
where was-
locations.
we have the map, right?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Rana would just produce the map from whoever has it, and then
Noko has it.
yeah.
Mm.
Rana would just be pointing to the fucking shrines that we've been to so far.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as they describe it. As we reached our second shrine, we found it seemed to have been attacked already. And then later, at some point, it was attacked a second time by more blight creatures. And once they were dealt with, a man who went by the name Lucius, according to some of the things that we've acquired.
Lucius, do you have the description of this individual?
Yes, he's a death elf mentioned earlier. He's pale. He has white hair.
Pale white hair. Understood. He'll sort of like take a piece of paper and sort of like circle a name.
The Lucius, I mean, I guess my question is answered there, but the Lucius that we saw pretty much exactly matches the description that we had of the middle-aged death elf, yeah? That we
Indeed.
got from the guard. Yeah.
And he was seen heading towards the direction of the
Yep,
next shrine. based
he's
on our
headed
notes.
towards the next shrine.
We believe that he'll probably be heading towards the next shrine. At least that's where he seems to be like to do his biddings. So he'll point towards the next shrine.
When we reached Arcadia, Lucius, we attempted to arrest him as best we could, but he escaped, managed to resist a hold person. He is not to be trifled with, as far as we can tell. But after that occurred, we made our way to Arcadia. We found some sources of blight there. We dealt with what we could. And once we were done, we headed to our third shrine, where we met a priest who seems to match another description that the guard back at the outpost gave us. Wounded on an arm by blight.
Suspect
apparently.
5.
She will nod.
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
He did have a wound on his arm matching the description that we were given.
Yes.
And we found
Okey-doke.
blight, a source of blight hidden in one of the caskets, and he seemed to be sort of in shock that we found it.
He seemed very wary when we mentioned the blight.
Mhm.
And we were investigating the arrow.
Right.
I would not be surprised if he's either fled from that shrine by now, or, I don't know, moved to Arcadia or something. I don't know.
We'll have some guards sent down that way to investigate.
Yeah. and then we made our way here. That's about it.
Okay. Any sort of extraordinary details that you can give? Anything, I don't know, something that would clue us into sort of the abilities, power, like, I know you did
Oh,
give a bit,
there's
but is there, like, anything major?
This,
there was something else I wanted to mention about the person we met at the shrine, the previous shrine that meant he was incredibly interested in this very specific ore, and we got it for him. I have no clue what he intends to do with it though.
Do you recall what material it was?
What was
Oh,
it
what the fuck
called?
was the name?
It was like some kind of quicksilver, right?
Watch as everyone scrolls up
Ozone
into finding it.
quicksilver.
Ozone
Yeah.
quicksilver.
Something like that.
I think that's true. Yes.
Yeah. That's what's written.
Something called
That's...
ozone quicksilver.
Okay. That's interesting that that would be found so easily. Yeah, okay. Well, thank you. You hear a knock on the door, and a individual pretty much wearing a completely plainclothes outfit will like pop their head in and be like, hey, guy, I'm just gonna walk in, it's their closed door. As soon as the door is closed, they immediately change tone. Greetings, everyone. Captain, may I speak to them privately for a moment? The captain just sort of nods, takes his helmet, and steps outside.
Do we recognize this voice?
No, you do not.
Okay.
About to be Lucius. He about to be like, "Oh, my companions, we meet again." He's gonna villain monologue at us.
Can't believe he is actually a changeling who took the actor feat.
Yeah, it's
Orin?
crazy. Alright, so each of you are the ones that were hired for an investigation of the cult, correct?
Yes. Oh my god, someone who knows what we are.
Alright, so one thing that you should have been told, but weren't, from how much attention you've drawn to yourself and your work with the Inquisition, you were supposed to be told not to sort of... Yeah, the Inquisition individual did say the cult related to the Blades.
Oh, right.
You were supposed to be working not under the Inquisition. You were supposed to you're supposed to just be doing a job. Unfortunately, this was miscommunicated. But, truth be told, we want the Inquisition to seem separated from this investigation.
It's kind of hard to avoid that given the outpost.
It's
If
fair.
we did not mention the Inquisition, we would have been arrested.
Yes, I understand that you guys had external factors that you benefited from the connection with the Inquisition. I do not blame you for this. I do not hold it against you. I just am disappointed in whoever informed you of this, or therefore lacked to inform you of this.
They
Now.
were quite cryptic in their explanation.
We tend to be. Now, he'll sort of like scan the room. His eyes will pause on Noko. And sort of
Looking.
looks at your arm.
Oh.
He'll give you sort of like a look that, without words, says, "Care to explain?"
I was a bit reckless, I suppose, and I'm still trying to figure out how to deal with this.
Well,
Hey, yeah, that doesn't happen to be like a a cleric who can get rid of this? Does that, like, in town by chance?
Unfortunately, all the clerics are either injured or busy.
No.
They were. I suppose I should tell you what happened in Shedden's to cause the security. From what happened was we were happy accepting visitors, and then it seemed that, unbeknownst to anyone, a few blight seeds were planted around the city. Each of them matured at the same time, causing havoc within and infection to spread among the populace. Part of this sort of shutting out outsiders is to keep pretty much dangerous people out, but also to keep potentially infected people within. It looks bad on this town to give that information directly, but given you are here, information is yours to have now.
I see. Has there been... Well, I suppose the issue is mostly in here, and that's our focus right now, but has there been much word from the shrine beyond, perhaps?
There's
Out of
not.
curiosity.
We haven't really had time to gather information related to sort of traveling attacks on the shrines, but if the information we have is correct, you are not too far behind Lucius.
Oh, he seems incredibly interested in us.
I mean,
Yeah. He seems quite comfortable with us too, especially after he attempted to attack some villagers.
the methodology of his mind is strange, but there is some reason to his madness. Connecting this back to why we want you to keep it subtle that you are working for the Inquisition. He has been a known annoyance, to put it lightly. He has sort of loudly proclaimed his hatred and disliking of the Inquisition. And this isn't the first time we've had to attempt to deal with him. On the first time that we dealt with him, he pretty much used the opportunity of his escape to show that the Inquisition isn't as ironclad as our appearance may make us look. He pretty much used as a tool of propaganda against us. Should he be able to gather information that you are working for the Inquisition and once again, say, either defeat you or escape from you, it would fuel this propaganda.
His hatred goes far deeper than just the Inquisition, no? When he confronted us, he mentioned his hatred of Elderia for what he believes are crimes against Borussia during the war.
The Inquisition individual will roll their eyes and sort of say, I mean, to hate us is to hate a core part of Elderia. I'm sure passively he hates Elderia because we are part of it. But I can use my connections here to provide you with a rest for the night and transportation that should assist you in reaching the shrine either at the same time as him or potentially before him.
That would be incredibly helpful.
The hope is that you'll be able to either ambush him or catch him off guard. Do you think you guys are capable of defeating him at your present state?
I think we could be.
It may be difficult, but I believe with all of us we can defeat him. I would like to think so. He seemed strong, but surely not strong enough to defend himself against 6 capable adventurers.
When you said that, this is out of character. When you said a tier above us, did you mean a tier above us individually or as a group?
Tier above you, like pretty much, he has pretty much the abilities that a player character of a tier above you would have.
Oh, okay.
So as in,
So
So
like,
he's like level 5 minimum.
yeah, like you would have
what it sounds
access
like
to
me.
3rd level spell slots and other things like that.
So
Okay.
it's like 5 to 9 is tier 2?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we probably are going to be dealing with Fireball, but I got nothing. We just have to kill him fast enough.
Just dodge. Just be a rogue and
True
dodge.
though, I didn't think of that. I didn't think of that at all.
Right.
Let's just make sure we stay spread out.
Yes, stay spread out and protect Sun.
Please do not group up on Sun.
If we cannot have her burning to death.
Rana will. I'm gonna subtle spell message to Latika, wherever the fuck. I don't have message on my token, but I have it on my sheet. Subtle spell message to Latika. Just should we show him the book?
I'll respond. We probably should. I don't think this one is going to instantly throw us into a cell. I would hope not, at least.
Rana doesn't seem to react.
With that, Ladika will speak up. We do have some materials that I suppose were given to us or left by Lucius that may help. This is where we got an idea of his personality and what his goals are. And over the journal that we got from the first shrine. And
Like we said, he has an incredible interest in us.
Perhaps you could. Perhaps you could exploit this. It could be potentially possible for you to attempt to arrange a meeting with him. And then, when his guard is down, thinking that this is a peaceful meeting, could have a pretty much attack ready against him.
Well, I will say that the reason we even have this book to begin with, or, well, I think I'm thinking of the other book. I don't remember. Well, either way, we did attack him on the first time we saw him because he was threatening civilians, and we weren't about to let that slide. So it's possible, but he might see it as a little fishy.
We would have to put on our best acting faces, I believe. I'm assuming that this man isn't stupid. Delusional, but perhaps not stupid.
Indeed. Well, the choice is yours. The two ideas I currently present with you is attempt to trick him into a meeting that is an ambush, or to attempt to ambush him on your own to catch him off guard as he arrives in the next shrine.
Is Noka's just looking over her map right now. He's ahead of us for the next one, but if he follows the same pattern he's been going, he would head to Reflection after that, and then the next shrine in sequence, which... Actually, you know what? I'm just gonna... It's a lot easier to point at things when the map is, you know...
Yeah.
Slap that map down on the ground.
Hell yeah.
How do I make it an object?
Here, let me just copy. Sheds insurance.
Is that the new one?
I paste it as a token.
Oh, that one doesn't have my notes from the other.
Yeah, let me. Is that it?
No, that one doesn't have the cave notes, but whatever.
Alright.
It really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because it's
That's
just
good enough.
yeah, like he's going here after this one.
Hmm.
Is there any path through here?
That is a
Well,
possible path, yes.
Hmm.
I don't know if I'd really want to just abandon the next shrine. Because if we just let him have free reign of that, just so we can set up an ambush in the one after.
Well, unless we have some other way of matching his pace
We were told we had
or
a vehicle that would, or some sort of vehicle that would let us catch up and pass him. That's what the Inquisitor just told us.
What vehicle do you have in mind?
Well, we had a sled for the snow. Hmm.
I personally think I agree with Noko here. It's cruel, to say the least, but assuming that we can catch up to him or surpass him, a sled or transportation of any sort isn't necessarily subtle. Skipping the next shrine in the next town and setting up an ambush in the 5th shrine might be our best chance of catching him off guard.
We would be leaving an entire town to his mercy.
You don't think I know that?
Yeah,
It's a
we
matter
could-
of stopping
look,
him.
if we can catch up by the next shrine, I'm willing to take that chance. I'm not about to let this next town go.
I'm not going to list the next town.
The important thing is stopping Lucius. The Squirrels is you are not needed in the next town. He has an attack pattern, so we could deter him from attacking next town, send some pretty much visible Inquisition agents there and sort of make him think twice about causing an attack where he is so visible.
Were you all prepared for this attack, or have you established this pattern now?
Well, pretty much we knew he was attacking shrines. The towns was not something we were aware of until Shut-ins was attacked, and I believe you shared that Arcadia had blight in it as well.
That
Yeah.
actually makes me concerned.
there's
We
also
did find a tree that was struck with blight in Arcadia. Yes.
there's
I
also one thing I'd like to point out. If we don't catch him by the 5th shrine here, if he has access to any sort of ship or boat at least, he could outpace us easily on the river.
and that would give him access to many more towns and cities that are along the river.
Could give him access to a water source.
And a water source. And I'm concerned because if we remember Arcadia, he only planted a few seeds, or what I would assume could be the start of seeds. We got rid of those, and then the blight broke out here in Shut-ins, and it seems that it was far worse than what anyone was imagining. If he's been practicing his craft, he might have something terrible planned for Reflection. So, I suppose
if we can have a verified method to draw him away from Reflection, I wouldn't be against going to, well, skipping a shrine.
Yes, if you have any way of contacting your companions or your associates in
Mhm.
Reflection, please let them know to be
Yeah.
prepared, very well prepared.
He'll sort of
The-
cast a spell for a moment and then sort of. Alright. They're already
I-
aware.
I do believe that our best chance is setting up in the fifth shrine.
Hmm.
Because if we can't catch up to him, we're just going to be running in the heels of whatever devastation he leaves behind.
Yeah.
What is this path like? This one from Suddens to that next stride.
It's not well traveled. It would be like coarse, unexplored terrain. Could have some dangerous animals. Not entirely sure what would be there. But it would cut out a significant amount of travel. You would make it
I
there
mean,
before you would.
That would mean we have to get ready for the travel.
Mhm.
I believe it's worth it.
Yeah. I think this is a solid plan for now. You wouldn't be able to spare anyone who could maybe help us guide our way through there. Maybe someone who knows the area a little better than us.
Unfortunately, I would not be aware of any individual who could do so.
A shame.
Well,
Do you at least have any more any maps of the route?
well, as I said, it's unmapped terrain. It's not something that people frequently travel.
All right. Damn, I can't update my map.
Until you go
I
through it
wonder,
yourself.
Would Elderian geography at least help guide the way?
Um,
I mean, obviously, if it's unexplored, there's only so much that.
I
that
mean,
can
yeah,
help,
like
but-
it would, since like with that, it would like make it so like you're less likely to get lost and end up traveling the wrong way.
So it's more that I know where the major, where
Yeah.
major points of interest are.
Yeah, like you could use
Major known
like the
points of interest
tallest
are.
mountain of the range. You could use
Yeah.
like you
But it
are
doesn't
able
give me
to
like
know.
clairvoyance.
Yeah, you're able to
Yeah,
like
I
figure out
understand.
which direction you're going.
Gotcha.
What-
Okay.
Because it's so close, would our Logan geography help in any way, or is it just like it's not that close?
It's not that close.
Okay.
I mean, we're still in Elderia, so I would
Yeah,
assume
For
not.
now.
our Logos is a bit off the map up here. It's not quite close enough. You got
Isn't
like-
it like
if you were
It's
like
like
in this area,
right
I would say.
here?
Yeah, if you were in like this area, I would be like, or like sort of like this. Basically, if you were on the opposite, if you were on this side of the river, maybe.
Is this all Arlogus here? I thought we
No,
were still
no,
like.
no. I'm
basically
just
in the middle
saying.
of Elderia.
Yeah,
It's
like
like the
here.
borders here.
Yeah, it follows the
Oh.
mountains. Yeah, so like if you were like
Okay.
here, it would be a maybe. It would help a little bit since it's basically bordering, but yeah.
I think Arkwood is a border town.
I believe so. Why don't I just open up the map that I have open in a different tab? This is why I have 50 tabs open.
Oh wait, no, it's on the. I put it on the wrong side of the river.
Oopsie doopsie.
What
Whoops.
have you done?
Can't believe
I
you
got
have inaccuracies in a map? It's never happened before.
I'll just move that quickly.
Maps have been 100% accurate for all 100,000 years of human existence.
Absolutely.
America's always looked like this, brother. Amen.
Maybe. Right. So, what is the plan for the party?
I vote we set up in the fifth shrine and just pray that the Inquisition runs Lucius off, and
Yeah.
like hundreds of people don't get killed because we
Yeah.
didn't follow him.
I'm gonna actually put a bit of faith in the Inquisition if they are aware and can drive him off.
Please don't
Like-
make me the stupid Inquisition, please.
Yeah. The only thing I'm actually worried about is getting there through the shortcut trip, but
Oh,
that's
we
our-
should be fine.
That's our next thing.
Should be fine.
Should be. I'm just
Says
scared of
person
what
who
kind of
dies.
scared of what kind of creepy crawlies might be there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Otherwise, yeah. Like I was mostly just if there wasn't anything keeping reflection safe, then
Mhm.
I would go for the fourth shrine. But since we have
We should pick up
Inquisition,
some warm clothes while we're here.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be a good idea.
I finally got to play lawful neutral because I was really about to let them about to let them dudes die. It's like we gotta catch this guy.
Fuck them kids.
It's for the greater good. Their sacrifice won't be in vain.
I don't know everyone's perspective. Oh, you got out of bed, dog? Did you? Sorry.
El Macia said hi.
You gave Kanaka enough reason to agree with you.
Hmm.
Otherwise, you would have preferred the game. Make sure the town stuff's safe.
Yeah.
Sounds like the party is in agreement to head to the 5th shrine.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, that is where we will pick up next time on the potential finale of the Shrines of Elderia.
Potential. Oh, damn.
I mean, I can't say for sure.
Mm-hmm. But, like, we only made it to, like, halfway.
Yeah.
This is in case something horrible. That's the rest of this is for in case something horrible happens and Lucius escapes.
It's the
Yeah.
finale. Oh boy, it's season 2.
I will say that you guys made a very good call calling out the river.
Yeah, I saw the river. I'm like, oh
Yeah.
god, we have to get there right now.
Yeah. Well, I honestly the like blight in the river didn't even occur to me. It was more of like if he gets a boat, he's gonna get to fucking Tranquillus, and then he's gonna fuck that place up with blight seeds.
Mhm.
And it's just like fuck. That's a big
Yeah.
city.
Calling out the river though, even if it was for like the boat, is a huge call because I
'Cause
wasn't even thinking about the
it's
river.
also also you know what this is?
Is that Scourge?
That's Scourge.
Yeah, I was like, there's got to be a major city like on this river, and
That's
yep,
fucking
that's Scourge
Scourge.
right there. We can't let we can't let him get to Scourge.
It's like, oh, he has the river. Oh, he has the capital.
Oh
Oh
my
my.
god, cutting through to the 5th shrine is the smartest thing we've done.
Yeah.
We cannot let this guy go. That'd be really bad. We cannot let him turn into a major story mission or major story mission villain.
Oh God, please.
Yeah.
I use destiny on the
We can't
research
let
roll.
Lucius become plot relevant. We have to stop him right here.
We
Saying
can't let him
that-
have access to all the villain points.
Oh God.
Exactly.
Is this my destiny use coming back to bite me?
No, maybe.
Not yet.
Le-
But
le-
if he
legally,
does get there, yes.
legally, this mission has only generated 1 villain point.
Mm-hmm.
When do we use Destiny?
It was used fairly early on in, I believe,
Yeah.
like the first shrine fight, where I was just like,
Oh
you
yeah.
could use a destiny to make that succeed. I baited,
Yeah,
I
that-
baited 1 destiny usage.
I can't
Yeah.
believe that worked.
Yeah, because
Also,
mine,
other
I was
mine
proud of myself.
He tried to pay the second one too.
And
Mine technically wasn't during the session.
it was in relation
was
to the
just-
session.
Yeah, but
I'm real curious about who's been talking in your ear.
I think you can guess.
Oh, I know who it is, but I'm mad because I have no reason not to trust you or not to look into it. You haven't been sus. Be more suspicious so I can start looking into you.
I absolutely
Also-
loved all like the like moments of like we have nothing to hide.
Yeah.
They can cast could detect heretic on
wait,
us.
We're having a long rest here, right?
Yes, you guys are
I'm level
able to long rest.
Ooh.
Hey,
Wait,
congrats!
we got XP.
God, I
right?
wish that were me.
Yeah, you got a total of 8 XP for this session.
Ooh, boy.
Yacht. That's a lot more I was expecting.
Yeah, that's
The harpies were rough.
Those harpies were a lot tougher than I was expecting them to be.
It was a very hard
I am-
encounter.
Yeah, I'm not level 4, but
I'm
oh boy.
57. No, even if I
Oh,
use, bro. Wait, hold on. I need
What's
to beg and
possible?
plead for somebody to donate me
Uh,
downtime days so I can get to level 4.
yeah, let's
'Cause
see if you have a good enough party member to donate you one.
if I use if I use all my
I
downtime days for XP, I'll be at 59 out of 60.
I
Kill
can
me,
donate
kill
all
me.
of my 0.
Oh, thanks, man.
So
Yeah, I
I
burned
might,
all of them.
I can consider doing that because it helps us on the.
I hope you guys enjoyed today's session. This is the end. Take care and goodbye.